There we
We
go.
will see.
It should.
I don't have a notification.
And he already is having issues.
Who knows?
Should work. Okay.
Is this a hammered out?
Freaking stop.
We are
Technically,
live. We're
technically
live.
speaking, we are live. Okay, cool.
There we go.
How's it going, guys? So today we're going to be talking about the heartbeat bill, and none of us have actually taken any rest from the last episode, but this is important, so we are covering it. Also, before we take care of that, a thing happened recently that I do need to notify people about because it's important to
I'm going
me.
to continue holding him because
Yes.
he's freaking out.
So apparently, we have a new cat that went up to our doorstep and insisted that we adopt it in the last hour and a half.
He is
Oh,
deaf and is infected in one eye, has a cut on his neck, and one of his paws is injured.
So we've treated for fleas. We have done antibacterial treatment on the eye because the eye is trying to swell shut. Also, they are deaf.
He is
Oh,
completely deaf.
he didn't look
can't
at you.
hear anything.
He didn't do anything.
oh, wow.
Do it again.
That time, hold on.
He
From
flinched, but
behind.
from seeing it.
Watch the ears.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, no. Cat is deaf. Also, on top of that, apparently, and don't do this, please, but if you try to touch the ears, they flinch, but there's no signs of an infection. But they are potty trained already, and they are human friendly, so we have a theory that this is an abandoned cat that a house hurt.
Oh, goodness.
So if I seem angry on this stream, it's because I fucking am.
Yeah.
He's such a good boy, guys. He's purring.
But this is here, and this is the little bit of happiness for the stream because the rest of this is going
That
to
cat
get
looks like
messy.
it can't be older than
And
6
his
months.
name is Yumi.
No, it's very small, very very thin as well.
Like,
So
you
Yeah,
can
that's like a
feel its
6-month-old
spine,
cat.
Each nick of its spine.
yeah. So this is the one bit of pleasantness before the stream.
And he's had some work done on one ear because it's shaved.
So hopefully that is a little bit of a thing. It's a bit of a positive thing because we're taking them in. A bit of a negative thing because of our suspicions. But yeah, no, that's the little bit of happy fluff that we get before getting into today's episode because this one's going to get messy.
Yeah,
This is going to get messy.
yeah.
I'd like to
Yep.
introduce the people who are here. So obviously, most of you know Ocean Keltoy, co-host on my Hammer Out podcast, also has his own channel. Then there is also Nathaniel Walters of the Divine Disbelief channel, who helped me out with an episode earlier this week. Also, they are going to be doing a debate live on my channel tomorrow with Epicrest.
And what was that episode?
What was the episode? I have completely forgot by now. I'm gonna be
Had to
perfectly
do
honest with
had
you.
to do with CMI, I think.
Had to do with things and stuff. Got it. Let's move on.
Had to do with things and stuff. The live stream that I had this Monday involved having Nathaniel on. Oh yeah, that's right. It was CMI. It was Creation
Yeah.
Creation Magazine. Their silly crap. So Nathaniel ended up saying, "Hey, can I hop on for that?" And I was just like, "Sure, hop in the stream channel on Discord." So we had an impromptu appropriation of Nathaniel, not unlike the times that we've had an impromptu Ocean hop onto Biblical Gender Roles episodes.
Yeah.
So, we also have, as well, Lady Unicorn EJG in here, which we haven't been able to have on since we did the LGBTQ episode of Hammered Out
Hi.
way long ago.
It has been a little while. Hey.
It has been a bit, but Lady Unicorn helped do research for this episode, so definitely making sure they have an opportunity to hop on. There will also be some other guests hopping on throughout the course of the episode. One of them will be Susan, who is Nathaniel's partner, who has worked for Planned Parenthood before. So they have a bit of perspective on this and has had to go through an abortion as well. So they have a bit of perspective they'll be able to lend in on this. My partner's going to be coming on to talk a little bit as well, Raziel. I would like for my other partner, Emmett, to be able to, but they have university today. So instead, I'm just going to be that person that goes, well, I have people who I care about who have to deal with this. Also, our house guest, Erin, has also had to go through this, so she will probably be talking a little bit as well. Basically, we've got a lot of crap happening surrounding this crap. So for those of you who don't know, we do have what is called House Bill 481. And this is the thing, if you are in Georgia, I have the bill pulled up. Links to the bill are in the description below if you want to follow along, but I also have the bill in the box over there-ish. Where is it? There? No, I'm pointing to Nathaniel now. I have it over there. So, yeah, no. That said, we do have everything available for you guys to reference and talk about as well, or to look through as well. That way, this is not something that you're having to just listen to us talk about. The information's there for you to analyze on your own, as with anything else. With that said, does anybody have anything they want to say before we start in? We'll start with Ocean.
Don't start with me.
We'll start with you. I'm gonna end with Nathaniel because I know he's probably got the most to say.
Right. I mean, I guess my initial reaction to this, there's been a lot of information going around about this bill, and there's some things that I've read, but I don't know whether or not are true. Which one of them is the associations with this bill, the death penalty. Another one is associations with this bill. If you drive out of the state or you transport someone out of the state in order to get an abortion, that's being termed as conspiracy to commit murder. Those are some things I want to ask questions about to the people that know more than me about how these things work on this that are in this hangout, or how we might be able to investigate those things to find out whether or not they're true. And then there's several obvious issues with this as far as how it affects my job, the film community in Georgia. I will probably have to move as a result of this bill if it sticks. So there's a number of things that are kind of up in the air with respect to this. It is just an incredibly, it's like, we can go more into that later because I know Nathaniel wants to jump into that with me on how Georgia's responded to stuff like this in the past. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming at from this. Is I've read a little bit of the research that Lady Unicorn gave us. But I'm hoping to learn a lot from this and ask some questions. So there you go.
All right, and then, do you have anything you wanted to say, Lady Unicorn?
Mostly, I'm just very glad that I'm not there to have to deal with this because, I mean, I would be extremely nervous having any kind of pregnancy on the off chance that something was wrong. That's just not one of the things covered because it just seems so specific about basically you have to be risking death or something.
Yeah, which is, wonderful for Georgia legislators to think that they have the ability to have autonomy over somebody else's body. But, I've dealt with idiots before. And then Nathaniel. Let's see. You're grinning. We're ready for this.
Can we? Oh, Cirrus.
What?
Can we start with this just by can we leave the word or phrase or whatever pro-life out of this shit for the entire. These people are not pro-life.
Yeah.
They are anti-choice. This is a state that attempted to elect somebody who drove around in a fucking bus trying to take brown people away. All right? These people are not pro-life. These people are pieces of garbage who are attempting to push what will be an incredibly negative piece of garbage that's unconstitutional on the most vulnerable of all of us. And I, Cirrus, Susan is not happy about this. I don't know that she knows how unhappy I am regarding all of this stuff, especially when it comes to people like Ocean, who I've been getting to know, who is directly involved in an incredibly lucrative keeping Georgia somehow in the black as they wither away all of the money that they could be coming in, and trying to basically force all those people away because of bigotry and because of hypocrisy and because of this so-called pro-life nonsense. Motherfuckers, this shit hadn't worked in other states. It's not going to work here. Stop trying to take rights away. That was my opening. If anybody wants to try and come back at that shit, please feel free.
Oh, I have no arguments.
I don't either. I feel like if somebody wants to call themselves pro-life, there has to be some qualifiers to that. And unfortunately, most of the qualifiers I can think of that one would use to call themselves strictly pro-life at this point would inevitably make them not. So, and I agree with...
I think that this one, there's a difference between, because I know a lot of people that describe themselves as pro-life, but they're, and one of them is an atheist activist who's a pro-lifer, and she does, like protests and all this other kind of stuff. But even her position isn't as extreme as this bill. I think that this is a bill that goes beyond what a lot of people that are reasonable humans and pro-life at the same time propose. Like, because even people that I know in Georgia, I live in Atlanta. It was different when I was living like out in the country. I think a lot of people were like hardcore, all abortion is bad, pro-life. But when you're over here in the city, even people that describe themselves as pro-life are saying, well, no, abortion has to be an option, at least in the first trimester, and a discussion in the second trimester, but that they view pro-life as being like a personal position for their own morality or something like that, which is easy to say for somebody who's not getting an abortion.
Yeah, do you know who is on who is actually pro-choice? Pretty much every single Jew that I know. Mm-hmm. Stop telling me you support the Jews, right-wing Christian pieces of fucking garbage, because they while they understand the moral difficulties that may come with believing in a monotheistic God and abortion, they're pro-choice. They understand, right? Find a fucking ally. You say you're aligned with Israel.
A lot of Christians as well that I've bumped into that say that they're pro-choice hold that abortion should be between you and God. Rather than, because there's all kinds of complications.
Has no place in it.
Yeah. So anyway, pile of issues, because without going into I think that a lot of people that are watching this are already familiar with the general abortion debate.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if there's anybody who isn't pro-choice in the audience watching this already. So I think that rather than, I agree with your first point, Nathaniel, that we shouldn't be spending a lot of time discussing pro-life in this. What we should be discussing is, I think, what the bill is, make sure that people are aware of what's going on. I have questions. I know a lot of other people in the audience have questions. And what, if anything, there is to do about it. So there you go.
Elect people who aren't shitbags.
Well, there's that. Are you aware of the election crap that led up to Kemp being governor?
Oh, you mean those who have hyphenated or apostrophe names that somehow
any name that didn't match state records exactly.
Oh yes, I'm well aware of that. These are the things they attempted to do after the midterm election here in Texas as well, where they were like, oh, this person, we don't know if they're actually yes. Oh yeah. That
also, it was found out that a number of polling locations were shut down, and voting machines were found in warehouses unused. There's all kinds of crap that was done with that. It's very, very obvious that there was voter suppression taking place. It should be worked out in the court. And the guy that went and did all this ignorant shit is now our governor.
Yeah.
And now he's doing this. Now we're here. So
also for those who are submitting fan art, I am putting the fan art in as it comes in, but we're not necessarily announcing it as we normally do. In order to
tone
get through
doesn't
most
quite
of
work.
This. Yeah, no, the tone doesn't fit. So if you send, it will come in as per usual, and I'm very happy for the fan art that has come in because we've already got 3 in. So
the one with me with a sword is pretty fun.
It's you fighting me, but I'm scrawny as hell in that.
Pretty legit, man.
But yes, while that is all coming in, just so you know, if I don't announce it like I normally do, it is because of the serious nature of this episode.
There will be tonal breaks, and then we can look at the fan art and have fun. But
yeah,
so let's start you don't mind, I want to push everybody into the direction of actually kind of looking over some things. So Lady Unicorn was fucking awesome.
Thank you.
And went through the bill and did a summary because she understands legalese better than any of us here.
That's sad because I just have way too much experience reading it. I'm not an expert of any sort.
True, but
Right.
you don't need an expert to be a good autodidact. So,
Like, I'm the kind of person that I can read this stuff. Oh man, this bill is shorter than I thought it was. It's 10 pages.
Yeah, that actually tells you a lot about it.
Yeah. Like
usually when you look at a new bill, it's a stack. It's a stack of papers.
10
No.
pages in the first two sections are just trying to lay out a case for why they think this needs to be there for constitutional reasons.
Yeah, they're trying to make it so that this one, unlike the one that was in Ohio, unlike the one that was in Iowa, unlike the one that was in North Dakota, unlike the shit they're trying to pass here in Texas, this is the one they're trying to that they're hanging their hat on. Alabama's trying,
this
Mississippi.
is the activist bill.
Yeah, that they're saying this is the one that we're going to take this
It's
to
going to go to the Supreme Court. And this
Supreme
is where
Court. Yeah, butt cheeks or whatever his name is, and
I like beer.
I like beer.
I like
Yeah,
beer. I like
Matt
beer.
Damon. And this is the one they're hoping.
Kermit,
And
the
that's-
Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah, that's why it's basically it is a bill that is a plea to the courts to send this up to the Supreme Court. That's all this is.
So
Compared to the other ones.
Lady Unicorn, when I'm looking at your notes, it looks like that they're developing an argument over a distinction between natural and artificial persons. Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, I think they just wrote that in there because we've had with the whole People's United thing, or Citizens United. There was the fact that corporations are considered legally to be people, to be individual persons and have rights. So I think they did that because they had to separate between human beings and these artificial constructs that have personhood.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next part is that you're saying they officially recognize the unborn as persons, specifically natural persons, and I guess that relates to the Constitution. That's attempting to slide in a
Trying
constitutional.
to say that, they're trying to say that you're depriving a person of life because they're recognizing them as a person.
Right.
From the way it reads, because it says at
Yes.
any stage of development and then starts limiting things based on heartbeat.
See, what's funny?
Right. So they use heartbeat. I see specification of natural people with a heartbeat will be included in population-based determination. So they could.
And doesn't measurable heartbeat typically begin at around the 6-week mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is stupid. It's really early.
Which is stupid as hell. Okay, if anybody in the audience doesn't already understand why that's stupid as all hell, and you know what? This video is already going to get demonetized, so I'm going to swear a fucking lot. Okay? So that's already going to go out there.
Get into it.
So here's the reason why that idea is fucked. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Do you know what 6 weeks pregnant looked like? You know what it looks like? It's you just now looked and realized you missed your fucking period. That's all.
If you have a regular period.
If you have a regular one. Oh, by the way, I should probably get into that right now. If it's assuming that you have a regular period, we've now stepped into ableism. Congratulations.
I love you, sir.
Without even fucking realizing it. So, just
love
in
the
case,
clap there.
Just in case people aren't aware.
This is how this works.
No, I know that I don't usually get yelly and I don't usually get mad, but I'm sorry if you're going to introduce a bill, okay, that will take both of my loved ones, not counting friends and family. Obviously, I love you, Ocean, but I'm not fucking you.
Oh.
Even if fan art disagrees with that, which
I hold the fan art with authority. So.
You hold the fan art as the authority, but I have both of my partners. Were they to have a pregnancy today, it would be a life endangerment. Both of them. So if Georgia wants to institute a bill that can potentially kill my partners, then I'm sorry, but everyone who has that bill, everyone who supports that bill, is on my goddamn chopping block.
Well, and you were talking about what 6 weeks along even is. You've barely got a head that you can notice. As if you've managed to get an ultrasound at all, because at that point, ultrasounds are still transvaginal. They're still having to be inserted.
Like,
to get it.
let's consider this. Okay, if a life is defined, as fucking stupidly as it is, as something that has a heartbeat, cool. You can cut off my head, and you can maintain keeping my circulatory system going, and I'm officially still alive, even though I am long since dead. No, absolutely fucking not. If you're going to define life, which I don't even think it fucking matters, honestly.
Yeah.
But if you're going to define life, if you're going to do it arbitrarily, then please define it at time of consciousness. The time that we would legitimately look at somebody and go, no, you're a living person. Please. Otherwise, you're an idiot. There's no way around it. You're an idiot. Moronicus dipshiticus is the scientific term for what you are.
It says that specifies that all natural people with a heartbeat will be included in population-based determiners.
Yeah, the census.
Yes, I wasn't aware that the census.
Does that mean that the census is going to?
That means that a fetus gets taken care of on the census. Yes.
What, did the census miss somebody if a woman is unaware that they're pregnant?
And I actually
I'm unaware that they're 6 weeks pregnant.
You should see my Google Doc that I wrote about that specific fucking sentence. It is pages long.
Yeah.
It includes census related stuff.
Oh, go into it. There's got to be fallout from that. It's massive. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And if
you
I
can
may
include it and say, like, that whether or not how many representatives we should have or something like that. Suddenly,
yes, yeah. How many electoral votes there are? Also, well, actually, real quick, I have to go to the 6 weeks thing real quick.
Alias
here.
fake name
right,
in the
hold on a
chat.
second.
Can I use the carpool lane at 6 weeks?
That's amazing.
That is
Yes.
perfect.
It's like, officer, I'm pregnant.
Yeah. Well, it's well at that point as well. You're pregnant with what appears to be a beluga whale. So, honestly, I feel like if I was going to say a person can't have an abortion, I'm also being a speciesist because it definitely does not look like a human. It's absolutely a beluga whale. And I have no other species that I can actually say it looks like besides
Officer,
that.
my dog is in the car.
Tadpole.
Yeah, tadpole, whichever. We can go all the way through every single one of
But officer, I have an aquarium in the passenger seat.
Ernst Haeckel's drawings and say every single one of these. But
It definitely does not look like a human being at that stage.
yeah, you could ask
Right.
how many different people who are involved in like neonatal stuff to point out a 6 week embryo or anything like that, and it's almost impossible. Let me see.
Patricia Fitzgerald asked in the chat, can you qualify for child support at 6 weeks? I think the answer in this bill is yes.
Yes, you qualify for child support in a fucking fallopian tube.
Well,
It is.
I don't know about that, but I know by the time you have it has a heartbeat, it would qualify according to the way this is written.
Yeah, it's at
There's a similar bill in Ohio that involves ectopic pregnancies, I believe, that involves that there's like it mandates a process of reimplanting, which doesn't exist as far as I know.
Yeah, reimplant.
So yeah. Anyway, but that's
what you have.
There's
An unborn
similar
child
bill
is what it says, by the way. An
in Ohio
unborn
that
child,
involves,
which we know is
ectopic.
not the medically accurate terminology, but I'm not going to get bogged down in that.
No, but they defined it in their thing, so.
Yep, even though it's not medically accurate.
Any
like,
state of development is
Isn't
included.
it
Shall
great
be.
that the people who write this shit don't even know basic biology?
Yep. So there's so much that goes into this. It's actually really terrifying. If they're in the state population, they're in the state census. And also are removed from the census if there is a miscarriage. So enjoy that if you're keeping up with populations over the course of time. That also means that they're entitled to the same rights as any other person who has been born, which means that a miscarriage is considered at the very least involuntary manslaughter. That absolutely matters if the pregnant parent smokes or does anything else harmful during pregnancy, which I don't advocate in those activities, but those are considered because you are at that point.
No, it's reckless endangerment or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which does mean if you do get into a car accident when you are pregnant, and especially if you're at 6 weeks or otherwise, this is a person if you yourself cause that harm, then there is a form of
like if the accident is your fault.
Yeah.
And your fetus wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. This is all real things that it seems like we're joking this, but this is if you're going to
like that's the
My
thing
laughter
that-
was the seatbelt for the fetus.
right.
not-
No, the seatbelt for the fetus thing, but consider for a second that if it's considered a person and has all the same rights and so on, then a lot of safety regulations would then not
Yes.
have to apply. Because a lot of laws that apply to persons do not have exceptions in them that say except for the case of the unborn. So an insurance company who say wants to fuck you over could say, hey, there was a person in your car that wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And that like this the kind of effects that are dumb, but that just how the law works and how people take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Apply kind of this, or at least could be tested in court. Could be argued in court, and whether or not would a judge be an idiot to side with that? Maybe.
Speaking of law,
depends on whether or not they're an activist. You know what I mean?
Speaking of law, Mark Caesar in the chat brought up a question: can you imprison a fetus that has not committed a crime, even if the host has?
That is what Fleischman brought up. Fleischman brought that shit up.
Like at this point, if the fetus is a person, you can't imprison the fetus. You're going to have to move the fetus to Child Protective Services, as you would in every other situation here. Congratulations, you can't even do that.
Well, you're talking about at that
point. It does
point.
put a lot of like it, and again, I'm going to stress it may seem like this is fucking stupid, and that common sense should prevail in these situations. However, we are a nation of laws, and these are the problems with defining the laws in the way that this bill seems to do it. Is that you wind up with these weird philosophy games of, well, this is how you've defined a person. This is how law applies to person. Now the rest of the law needs to create unborn-born distinctions.
Has to.
So
there are a few things where it actually says something about certain cases, but it doesn't go into nearly enough details to cover everything. There's no way it could.
Well, the way that if you want to tell me that this is
not in 10 pages.
There's no way. This is if any I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get the wording right. An unborn child at any stage of development, if that is on the state population, on the state census, which, as we mentioned, goes into representatives, which will then have to deal with, congratulations to the Republicans, get a gerrymander shit again, and into how many electoral votes this state will get, then absolutely it goes, they receive the exact same treatment under the law, which is equal treatment under the law as far as I know. Which Andrew Fleischman, right? He's the appellate attorney in the state of Georgia. He actually said that the moment that this one takes effect, January 1st, 2020, and I have a whole
it takes place, starts next year. My roommate and I were looking at that because we're like, well, do we need to move like tomorrow? Like, it was what was going on? Because like there's close friends of mine that are in relationships that are like, if there's an accidental pregnancy, that's not happening for us right now. No.
Well, like for instance, there's a whole, like, for me, here in the next year or two, when they're available to, Emmett and her partner are wanting to move down here. Her partner, my meta, and we're all
bought a house.
Yeah, we just bought a house, and they're wanting to move here. But now she's fucking terrified. Gaelic Knox, the person who provides the art for this channel, is terrified because what happened, like literally they have already had to have an abortion because the way that her cervix works, cervix is supposed to have a shape, flat, round, down. Hers has a shape like this. It cannot support a life, or it will literally destroy her from the inside out. It rips her apart and it will kill her. So
to be fair, in this bill there are actually things mentioned for risk of death.
Yeah, up to 20.
Yes, but we have to determine risk of death.
That the 20 weeks is actually for rape
and incest. Yeah, the 20 weeks is rape and incest, which, by the way, let me just go ahead and say,
as long as you fucking file a police report.
Yeah, if you have to file a police report, there has to be.
They have to way to determine it. They have to, they have to provide that too.
Which, by the way, let me go ahead and say this right now. This is a fun. We're talking about some of the fun little consequences that happen. These are fun and quirky consequences of your dumb shit bill. Okay.
Yeah.
Fun and quirky.
Now we're going to talk about rape.
Yeah, fun and quirky consequence about this. You've now created a bill which means that a woman at some point will have the decision in front of her. Should I accuse? Because that's the only way to get an abortion, if need be.
Yeah, these are all things that like were hypotheticals in abortion debates until now.
Yeah,
Like
they
now
can
all of
go.
a sudden,
They can
all these
go.
crazy things that we were discussing so long ago is
I will
because like the
say-
abortion debate was largely irrelevant for a long time. Now with Kavanaugh in the Supreme Court, all of a sudden, all this is back on the table, and these like weird ideas about like accusing someone of rape so that an abortion is now an option is something. And also, here's another question: does the person does there need to be a conviction
No.
before an abortion is okay? So just an accusation.
Just an,
Yeah.
just
No,
an
okay.
accusation.
We could go straight up fucking numbers 5 on this shit. What if no, seriously. We're going to use the Bible here. We're definitely not paying attention to Exodus 21, which specifically says that that anybody that a fetus is absolutely not a human life. We're
This
going
is
to
already passed.
We're going numbers 5 on this shit, right? I'm the guy in this relationship, okay? I don't want the child. She raped me. What are you going to do?
Oh,
Just throw it the other way around at that point. You
Oh.
because of the way this bill is worded, you've created a legal loophole where the only way around this is to throw somebody who you might love with every inch of your heart, but you know for a fact that you cannot support this child, or any of the other number of thousands of reasons somebody might need to get an abortion that are not strictly medical,
Yep.
or might be.
medical, but are not
They're not life threatening.
ill or even permanently disabled.
Or like where somebody just goes, hey, my family like for instance, a doctor might say, no, you're perfectly healthy, you can carry to term, except you might be someone who's motherless, your mother died in childbirth, and her mother died in childbirth, and the mother before that died in childbirth, but the doctor determines that you are perfectly healthy to carry to term. However, there is that terror, there is that anxiety, there is that every single inclination in the back of your head that your life now just got a 9-month span, and that's it, and you're done, because this is a thing that has happened in your family all the way down. But because a single doctor has determined that you should be able to do it, and it should be fine, you get to risk your fucking life.
Yeah. Can I? And I know that Insurus and you and I and you and myself and I know everybody here, we are absolutely, and I think rightfully so, especially if you live in Georgia, which I know you guys over there. We're emotionally charged with this. I think it's also important though to look at it from the angle that doesn't have to do with emotion, right? Can I read a couple of things that I wrote about this when I was first reading?
Before you do that, real quick, and there's a lot of people in the chat have been asking whether or not this has actually been signed into law. Brian Kemp just signed this yesterday into law, and it will take effect.
There's a
January.
reason. There's a reason we're going over this. It got signed in, taken into effect in 8 months.
I also just wanted to verify that for myself, and I found the article.
Beginning of the new year. is
Here's what I'll
it's
do. I'll
back.
post. There's an Esquire article that I found. I'll post it in the chat as well if anybody wants to verify for themselves that this has been actually passed.
Oh yeah.
What's the beeping?
So it has passed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I'm gonna. Is it okay if I read a couple of things that I wrote? Is it
Yeah.
okay? Now, because they're on the census at this point, right? They're included in how much money a state can receive from federal funding, especially for the ACA, including the individual mandate. The pregnant parent must start carrying health insurance for the fetus the moment pregnancy is verified. If the parent does not carry additional insurance for the fetus and is that is now legally part of the population, they must pay the penalty fee. For 2019, the fee is greater of 2.5% of your household's taxable income, or the flat fee of $347.50 per child under 18. Also means that families must purchase additional health care either from their employer, which will cause prices to rise, or through the ACA. And in Georgia, I believe it's Alliant, Ambetter, Anthem, or Kaiser. For those that are still unborn, which will affect their spending income and their overall ability to impact the economy positively. a person filing federal taxes in 2019 for a fetus conceived today that will not be born until 2020 will have to file for an additional dependent in 2019. This also means any persons applying for federal assistance are required to place the fetus on their application, thus raising their required level of income and making them immediately qualified for benefits they would not have otherwise been given until giving birth. Current maximum income would raise for a single household from $15,782 to $21,398.
So can we surmise in saying the entire thing is basically saying fuck the poor?
It gets even some more to that because Georgia is last or first, if you will, in maternal mortality rate in the entire state, in the entire country. I thought it was Texas. It's not where it turns out we're 47th, but whatever. It also highlights how bad Georgia's maternal health care structure is. To make it worse is that those numbers will skyrocket and absolutely affect Black women who are currently 4 times more likely than white women to die during childbirth, and also who are currently giving birth to more children. It absolutely affects them because, as we spoke about earlier, 40% of the state, or people of color make up 40% of the state. And everything about this, you're talking about, there's currently 49% of the state's 2.4 million children are low income right now. Add in the additional fetuses that will now receive 9 months before birth any kind of benefits, and put the undue strain not only on the government but also on the taxpayers for fetuses that may never even be born.
By the way, as another thing, if anybody has any questions or any disillusions as to what a pregnancy looks like at 7 weeks, which is one of the big things that comes, because it's 1 week after where the cutoff point is for half of this stuff. So if anybody's curious about that, if you look on screen, we have a wonderful clump. I don't know if we could really call that anything but a clump.
Yeah, that's the little looks like a bird in that one. Could go, but that's the beluga.
Yeah, that is something that Lady Unicorn just sent to me for use in this if we wanted to. So this is a 7-week pick. This, even if
doesn't look like a human, does it?
No, it's not.
Definitely a bird.
Even if you want to be that person that goes, well, biology would recognize this. Shut the fuck up. You're not a biologist. I know for a fact you're not. And if you are, then I'm sorry. I will acknowledge your credentials. You're just an idiot.
Did you see what Jason Rumble wrote in the chat, by the way? At 6 weeks, can you even tell if you're having twins? Will you get audited if you don't declare the second one?
If they can get the heartbeat at all, you're going to be able to tell if there's multiples, but still.
These are questions that are so inane that it's the things that and by the way, I have and I don't want to like pages of stuff getting into like just the economics of this. And I know that Ocean, you and I are going to have the opportunity to talk about how much money from, Marvel's Avengers Endgame and everything else. But just economics alone, you're talking about putting somebody on the census who may never actually be born, but you're not going to be able to adjust that in time for like maybe the 2020 census. You're talking about receiving how much more in benefits for a fetus that may never actually pass through the birthing canal. Have you then received those benefits illegally because you didn't give birth to a child? And this goes even beyond everything else when it comes to the fact that we already know that people are still going to have abortions. Not Texas, sorry. Hi, Texas again. You're really shitty at this too, and you're trying to do bullshit too. And don't worry, I'm coming for you too, you motherfuckers. The women and the parents that are involved in this are still. You have the amount of teenage pregnancies and repeat teen pregnancies in Georgia is not low. Sir, I actually sent you a couple of graphics for that. And you can also tell where the highest numbers of teen pregnancy are. And these are the same people. And this is a moral thing. But let's get into economics with this again. These are the same people who are telling us that we can't tell our children and their young people about contraceptives, and then we're going to tell them, and we can't tell them about anything other than like abstinence and nonsense like that, because that's a Georgia thing. But we're also going to tell them, by the way, we didn't educate you on this, but now you're the one who has to deal with everything that has to come from it, which then is going to lead to more people dying, young people dying, as well as young people doing things that they're still going to go and get abortions.
Yeah, and teenagers are actually at a higher risk for complications and death than an adult getting pregnant.
Yeah, especially in what does it say? Women of color are 4 times. Women of color that are below the age of 18, it's higher than that. And the amount of teenage pregnancies in the state, we talked about how the disparity of race between the north and the south part of the state. You can tell on the graphic that I sent you, sir. I'll send it to anybody that wants to see it. I link everything. Trust me, I got sources upon sources. You can see where that is and who's affected by this, and then you can also see the poverty line, and then the people that are seriously affected by this. You don't want to give them additional help because you're against providing Medicare for people, but you sure as fuck want to take away their ability to try and go, because over 50% of them have a job, that have one child have a job, but you want to take away their ability to go and do and provide for who is already born. Sorry.
Yep. Typical though.
So and I was having a small debate with myself in my head regarding what Gaelic Knox is saying about people that would that can die if they get pregnant, just due to shape of uterus and that kind of thing that Soros was talking about earlier. I think that the bill does provide provisions saying like, hey, if the mother's life is at risk, then an abortion could be available.
Yes, it does allow for that.
Right. Problem with that, though, is that now we're in a position in which a woman has to prove that this is the case.
You have to prove that you're going to die, and you have to prove that it's a medical emergency.
Right.
And in the event
You
that
need a doctor to declare
it becomes like this big, and a doctor could disagree with you.
Yeah.
Be wrong.
Yeah. And so it may be because I'm very angry right now.
I am.
And it may be because I have a tendency to have somewhat violent reactions that I don't show live. When our cat Nymphia died, I punched a hole in the wall. Like my reactions can get very, very visceral, very, very fast. Because when there's too much, there's too much. I'm the type of person that if Emmett were pregnant tomorrow, here, and a doctor were to tell her, no, you have to carry it to term, I would have a very fucking hard time not breaking his jaw. And if you think that a response in violence is a bad idea, then let me ask you what your response would be to a death sentence to your loved one. And if you think it would be different, stop lying to yourself and me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
So,
straight up. Like,
sorry.
Yeah. It would be very difficult to not resort to violence in that case.
It would be incredibly difficult. Oh, also.
Oh, fuck you, Matt Powell.
All right, listen here, you little bitch face. All right,
oh,
Matt
did you
Powell.
take your little video down, you lying piece of sorry. No, sorry.
Listen here, Matt Powell.
I fucking hate you, Matt Powell.
Listen.
Matt Powell is here.
If you, my lovely
Dude,
little snowflake cucking son of a bitch.
Find you with a fucking.
Okay, hold on. Listen.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute myself.
Go ahead, sir.
Hold on. Listen. Matty Poo Butt Cheeks, my favorite piece of shit on the planet. If you would like to come into this conversation and speak with us, you are more than welcome to do so. However, I do warn you, this is not going to work out very well for you. But I know you won't because you're a fucking coward. If you'd like to prove me wrong, please do so. I welcome it.
He's a piece of shit lying coward. He's not going to join us in anything like this. He doesn't understand what facts are. He doesn't understand what honesty is. He is a piece of garbage.
I'm not talking to fools. You're right. I agree, which is why I'm not going to be talking to you.
Yeah, that's why.
I already
Sorry.
obliterated. So first of all, Nakasuchi is not my boy. He's my friend. But he's not my boy in a way that would make him...
Notice how he... No, don't even take that fucking bait, Cirrus.
No, it's not
He
even
just-
that.
I'm
Try
not
to do
talking to
that.
fools. Okay.
No, it's not. Regardless of anything to do with Raging Atheist, my beef with you is separate from that. Completely separate from that. 110%. I recognize that you won't talk to me. And it's not because you don't talk to fools, it's because you're a coward in a fucking basement. Whether or not you happen to actually be in a legitimate one, I'm talking about your mind. If you want to show that you're not a goddamn coward and be a little bitch face the same way Steven Anderson was, you'd murder a baby, go to hell. So what you're saying is you'd like to do this thing where you try to be a rhetorician. I am a better fucking rhetorician than you. I am a better orator than you. I will gladly fight you in the arena of hyperbole. If that is what you want to do, then we will do that, Matt. If that is what you wish to do. But you, and I'm going to say this very clearly, one, you're a coward, so you won't. But let's assume you weren't a coward. Let's do that for like half a second. I know it's a lie. You're better at it than I am. Let's assume that you didn't. Your ass would be obliterated so fast, everyone would assume that you're gay.
Well, I mean, wait, what? Do we?
You would be
Does
bent
anybody
over.
not currently assume that? Like Matt,
So,
I'm
seriously.
sorry,
here's
Matt.
the-
There
here's
are
the
very
next
few
thing.
human beings on this planet that I would not blink an eye.
Matt Powell will take a debate took a debate with Nakasuchi. That went interestingly.
Yeah.
He will not take a debate with you. I don't think he would take a debate with me.
No, he's not going to take a
so-
debate with somebody competent enough to hold their own against his dumbass.
Right. So
Which is like 90% of the planet, but you know.
he's an idiot. He's going to be reveling in this crap because, hey, but let's get back to the fucking bill.
I fully
It's clear
expect there
that
to
he's
be
not
a-
interested. He's already said, I'm not interested in debating fools, which is his way of just like, no, he's a coward.
It's his way of cowering in his car so he can make another fucking video.
Daniel.
Yeah, I'm
done.
not. Can I just give a plea to Matt real fast?
Go for it. Let's hear
Sure,
it.
go ahead.
Matt, let me be the one that they catch sucking your dick, please. You would be the first dick I'd ever suck, but I'd do it just for you, buddy. Straight up, let me be the one they catch you with. I don't want them to catch you with some like rando, right? Let it be me.
Nick, I don't know what your point is, but you can go ahead and tell me your point later. It's okay. Now, that said, back to the matter at hand, now that we're ignoring the literal piece of human filth and garbage that stepped into the chat. Anyways.
Matt fucking Powell's just.
I'm so sorry, Susan. Susan's gonna come home and
Just for a second, intervene.
Sure, but if you're going to do so,
Oh, I just want to address this flaming piece of hot garbage. Matt, until you grow a vagina, until you grow ovaries and a uterus and titties, until you get to that point, you can take your dick and you can fuck yourself. You don't get to make that fucking decision, okay? Human piece of flaming garbage.
so could please help? My camera's on a tripod and it doesn't like me.
I mean, I will come to Michigan for you, Matt. I'll do it, buddy. I know people up there.
Like,
I got friends.
How's that?
You don't even need to go to like a
Sure.
hotel, anything like that.
it's fine.
Let's get back to the bill, guys. So
Yeah, we can go ahead and get back to the bill. I've done my.
this excludes this. Okay, this is where, and I want to go back to Lady Unicorn. Lady Unicorn, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So this says excludes removal of dead embryos, fetuses, and ectopic pregnancies.
From
the
the
definition.
definition of abortion. So those aren't
Okay.
considered abortions if it's already dead or if it's an ectopic pregnancy, which is never viable anyway.
Yeah.
But what do you have you heard about this, the Ohio thing where they're talking about reimplanting ectopics?
You're a scumbag.
No, I hadn't heard about that, but there's nothing in here about that one.
Right. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing that I'll probably want your opinion on later because that's a whole thing that's a debate right now that a friend of mine who's a nurse was just was screaming about that, being like, "There's no, you can't." Anyway,
I'm unaware of any way to even potentially save an ectopic pregnancy.
so this also defines medical emergency. What's the definition of a medical emergency that they're using?
Well, I mean, I don't remember their exact words, but it boils down to it being a case where the pregnant woman would be potentially killed by continuing the pregnancy if this abortion doesn't occur, or where there's going to be a permanent and irreversible. Even if it's permanent, if there's a way to reverse it, it's not counted. If there would be permanent and irreversible impairment is the other condition. So if she was going to die, or if it's going to like permanently disable her and there's no way to reverse it.
Right. But if there's temporary impairment,
not included.
Right.
Not considered a medical emergency. If those would be the case, but it's because of a mental or emotional condition, it's also not considered to be. So you could literally have somebody who is going to like wind up killing themselves because they can't stay stable. And that is not enough reason.
And that gets into the question that we were talking about earlier about a doctor misdiagnosing or being just generally mistaken about how the situation would affect a person. That then we're depending on doctors getting this right all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if it could be potentially misdone, and as a result of this law, people die as a result of that.
Could happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then further we get into this excludes definition of medical emergency if the situation is based on mental or emotional condition. Can you go into that?
So it even in the bill itself, it even specifically mentioned the idea of potential suicide. Like if the person who's pregnant and is potentially going to end up dead, if they're going to end up dead or injured, not because of the pregnancy per se, but because of an action they're going to take, or because of something that's related to an emotional condition or a mental condition, that automatically it does not count as a medical emergency. They cannot abort at that point for that reason.
So this just eliminates mental illnesses from the set of illnesses that apply.
They can't even consider an abortion if it's got to do with mental illness.
How soon to me? Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Repeat that one more time so the audience can do a double take twice.
Which one of us?
So what I heard was if the threat of life in this situation is due to mental illness, like say that someone is schizophrenic or has massive depression or something like that, and that there's a danger to just being pregnant is dangerous in a lot of these situations. This eliminates the ability to get an abortion in those kind of situations.
So
if that is why it is dangerous, they cannot use that as a reason for an abortion. Correct.
So in the case of so wait a minute. I know I already accused this bill of being ableist, but did it just do all that work for me?
Yes.
Yep. There you go.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's wait for our new person to get situated.
That's cool.
So that's a whole conversation in and of itself, right?
We have a lurker still, by the way, but that's fine.
Oh, is he still in there?
Oh yeah.
Is Matt Powell still there? I wasn't.
Oh yes, he's lurking.
Matt Powell.
I will suck your dick.
All you have to do is just do an @ and you can find him. It's easy.
Oh, okay.
But that's fine.
But yeah, that could definitely be a conversation.
Coward
in
can
and of
hide.
itself.
Yeah, like
sitting on a shoe.
somebody. Okay, I think divine disbelief. You got a lot of bouncing around going on over there.
Also,
yeah, she's moving a mic. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
So I've also there's a question that's been brought up in the chat, and I do want to point out that this is a thing. So if someone gets pregnant, even though a condom was used, yet it rips. Let me go ahead and take that a step further. Okay, a condom was used and it rips, and a birth control pill failed. Let's take it just a step further. Let's take it to let's fucking reductio this. Okay, every method was used, and the pregnancy still happens. No, they would not be allowed to have an abortion.
No.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
it does not follow. There is nothing about intent to be pregnant in the bill. So if you took all the measures, if you were on the birth control pill, if you used a condom, if you didn't come inside, like literally every possible thing you could have done to have sex but not have a pregnancy, everything, it does not matter.
Unless the particular details of it cause there to be some
Yes,
circumstance where you would die, or
And
yeah.
like,
but not because you didn't intend to get pregnant and did everything responsible. No,
I'm still
still on
sorry.
the mental illness side of that.
Yeah, I'm still double taking over that because it's
Because they explicitly, and their example had to do with potential suicide.
So if the
That
child,
was their example.
Yeah.
that was their
So-
example.
is there a thing in there like
Their example in the bill.
if
had
the
to do
child
with
is going to come out brain dead as a vegetable, they have to carry to term
Yeah.
if it'd be able to be alive.
because they're determining that by heartbeat, not anything else.
Oh no! Well, there's a thing on if it's medically futile, if the child would die of the conditions.
Oh yes, no, but they're determining life by heartbeat. They're not determining it by consciousness.
Or when you have that kind of situation that you add qualifiers in the bill, and she's saying that those qualifiers have been added. Is that
But
right?
he might be right, because if they only consider it to need a heartbeat to be alive, that could still be considered alive even when there's.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah, child
They're
comes out
not
in a
taking. They're not taking quality of life into consideration at all.
Yeah.
child comes out in a vegetative state. Mother, like, I'm gonna go ahead and do a scenario. This is a scenario. This is the person who's going to be hurt by this. Okay, this is a thing that will happen. I'm calling it within a fucking year. This is a thing that will happen. There will be a mother who is in a trailer park who cannot afford anything, either a trailer park or a one-room apartment or something. They cannot afford anything. They are living off of ramen every day. They have done everything in their power not to get pregnant. It still has happened. And the child will be born in a vegetative state. This is a state, if a child is born that way, the amount of money and resources it takes to keep that child alive, which they will have to, they will not have a choice, the amount of money it takes is well over what is acceptable, even in like a $40,000 a year job. It is well over what the capacity of somebody like that would be able to. This mother in this scenario also does not have anybody to help. There are no parents. This is the point of a reductio ad absurdum, by the way, for anybody in the chat who doesn't fucking understand that. The point of a reductio is to bring up an extreme situation that can and will be a possible liable option. And if it is a thing that can happen in reality, then the reductio shows the problem here. Here, this is a mother who can't afford food, can't afford living expenses, and is being forced to take up a child that is going to take up at least 3 times the normal amount of money that a normal child would. Not normal, that's a bad word for this.
healthy.
Healthy, yeah, probably. That's probably closer. But this child has to be taken care of by this parent, even though the ability to do so is not there. And this is a parent who literally cannot take care of this child. This child will die under their care because there is no other option. There's nothing. Nothing can happen. Because this parent also, by the way, is a single parent in my example. This is a parent who cannot just get a babysitter. This is a parent who can't afford that. This is a parent who is having to take care of this on their own, which means they can't even go to work. So now there's not even money coming in. This parent now, the child will die. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. This is a thing that will happen, and the parent will go to jail for neglect. So, this bill has created a world, or will create a world, where that scenario will happen, and I'm going to call it within 1 fucking year.
So, since we brought up that idea, does Georgia have the laws on the books where you can actually safely abandon a child at certain locations? Because some states do have that.
I have not seen that, but it doesn't mean it's not a thing. I'm unaware of it if it's
Nebraska has that.
Mm.
Yeah, because that would actually be a way around his scenario in part, though it wouldn't solve all the problems by any stretch.
Yeah, I mean, not at all. I mean,
Right. But it would solve the whole instance of the person who literally can't take care of being arrested and everything.
I want to throw out
life.
I want to throw out real quick. Okay, so I'm looking at where we are as far as like describing the bill. We've got a little bit left to kind of go through, but the one of the things that we want to talk about, like some potential actions that you can take as far as a result of this. The ACLU has said that they're going to be taking this to court. So become a member of the ACLU if you want to support their endeavors regarding this. That's one of the things that there's only a handful of things you can do as far as action is concerned with this. If you live in Georgia, you can call your representatives, but they've already voted on the damn thing. The governor's office has already signed it. There's not much that can be done. But the ACLU will be fighting this. So if you get a membership, I think it's like $20 a month.
So, and I don't want to engage
helps.
in a slippery slope, but I feel as though if this goes through and is not properly fought, like I know that it's already been signed in, it's gonna come into effect. Like there's no ways around that. But if it is not properly fought, this could be used as a precedent for other states.
Yes, and that's what they're hoping for. So is Ohio, by the way, and so is Alabama.
There's a few of these.
Yeah, West Virginia, I think, Texas is trying right now.
Texas, of course.
But
because what else is new here?
Yeah, we're good at that. I can tell you, I don't think it will go into effect. I think that it'll be shot down in the courts before it ever makes it.
Or January 1st.
Because it has been pummeled very quickly in every other state that it has passed. That includes North Dakota. I'm not trying to single out a bunch of like red states here, all of them, but every single one of them, it has been incredibly.
We don't have to single them out. We can just refer to them collectively.
Yeah, it's not. It is not a like at this point. This is one of those things where you're like, oh, hey Susan, there was a state who just passed an anti-abortion bill. Do you think that their governor and or legislation are Republican or Democrat?
Gee, I wonder.
It's such a mystery.
It really is.
Never wrong about this. That's going to be.
I just saw a wonderful chemistry at play there.
She's the best, and I can tell you that that I am confident that's going to be the case. Mm-hmm. That it won't make it to January, which is great, but you're not wrong. This is, and I think that I had chatted with somebody. I had texted back and forth to somebody a little bit ago about this. They are taking what Iowa failed at, and they're taking what North Dakota failed at, and they're taking whether it was Idaho or whomever else, and what Ohio is going to fail, and what all these other states, like the Coptic pregnancy thing, it's 100%
ectopic,
100% maternal death, right? Unless
it can be reabsorbed. Like there are a few ways that it can solve itself, but it is never a viable pregnancy. The embryo, or usually embryo, not even fetus, by the time it happens, will die one way or another.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what and you're correct, by the way, Ocean. There is no, because I was looking at it, making sure that I had my resources in order before I responded. There is nothing that says, yes, let's reimplant this in the uterus. That's not the way that goes. It's not possible.
No.
Did the Ohio law say that?
Yes. Well, the person that wrote it, the Republican that wrote this said, and I'm gonna quote it here, that way I don't get it wrong. And I'm saying this specifically for a reason. Said, this is where the Representative Becker says part of that treatment would be removing the embryo from the fallopian tube and reinserting it in the uterus so that it is defined as not an abortion under this bill.
This doesn't seem physically possible.
It's not. It's not a medical procedure that happens.
No.
But what they're doing with this is they are taking their wording and they are taking little bits and pieces from that kind of stuck or kind of seemed more moderate. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to put it in these bills to try and figure out, which is why, as you may have heard before you got in, while you were listening, the first couple of pages have to do with, like why we should see this as constitutional and that kind of nonsense. And that's what they're just trying to like bang on the door until somebody opens it just a little bit.
It's a Frankenstein, basically. Frankenstein's monster, technically.
Yeah.
You want to get all pedantic and shit. And I don't know. I have so many feelings, and I was yelling at the phone as I had it broadcasting the stream as I was driving home, just yelling out of anger.
If you ever wonder why I'm in love with this person.
It's definitely an infuriating type of bill or law, I guess now.
Can
Yeah.
you go to another state is what somebody said in the chat.
That's the conversation that I heard about that, and which is what I want to ask the panel here, was that I read somewhere saying that if you travel to another state with this bill enacted in order to get an abortion, that is conspiracy to commit murder, which comes with a 10-year sentence. And that would be on both the person getting the abortion as well as anybody driving them or involved in the plan to get that to happen. So there you go. Is that something that applies with this bill, or is that something that I just read that was a dumb theory, or is that just like
don't know.
expansion?
I don't know, because I didn't see anything that would specifically do that. However, there was also nothing that would prevent that from being done. So I don't know. I do know it does mention somewhere in there homicide of an unborn.
Oh,
So it does already have the ability to consider.
so yeah, homicide's in the wording, therefore, yeah.
It does have that, but I don't know about how exactly everything would wind up applying. So it's
The there's a tweet that came from Innovation Ohio that says the bill would also ban effective methods of birth control
That
and
does
require
not
re-implementation, blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's the Ohio one. Not
Yeah,
this
that's the
one.
Ohio one.
Yeah,
okay.
we're talking about the Georgia one specifically, but keep going.
Oh well, there was a specific tweet that I saw that did say that it's 10 years according to the Georgia bill.
Yeah, it says that prosecutors may interrogate women who miscarry to determine whether they can be held responsible for liable for second-degree murder.
Is that in the bill, or is that fallout from the bill? Because I think that's an important distinction.
I think that may be considered fallout, but there is in the bill something to do with specifically homicide of an unborn child.
Right, and if
So
you use
it
the word
does have-
homicide, then that fallout becomes intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
wrote
think
it that
it's
way.
directly exactly in the bill, but it's like easily seen fallout.
Yeah, they wrote it transparently enough that a prosecutor who would want to
That would
try
be
and find.
for homicide. Yeah.
Live.
Yeah, that's again. This is they're trying to find what sticks with it.
Now a miscarriage goes into homicide investigations.
Yeah, if you can.
Okay.
That means, and what that
That's one thing that confused me. Like, the bill actually has a thing in it defining spontaneous abortion, referring to miscarriages and also stillbirth. But it even had a thing in there for that, and it's like it didn't mention that anywhere else. I don't know if it does in the law it was amending.
Mhm.
But it's like it put that in there, and it's like, wait, what? Because they're sitting there thinking about that now. Like,
You know that this isn't a thing that they didn't consider. This is a
Yeah.
thing that they actively considered going in.
and defined in there, and then did nothing with it. I don't remember seeing it a second time at all. Just where they defined it.
All right, and then here it just defines spontaneous abortion, defines medically futile. We talked about those things. Prohibits performing an abortion if an unborn child has a detectable heartbeat. This is where we discussed homicide, correct?
Well,
Excerpts.
technically the homicide thing's listed later, but
Okay.
yeah, that's basically where it would.
But then
come-
it
where would
implies-
come from is
Got
the fact that it's forbidden
Um,
except in specific cases if they have a heartbeat. Which
Does
they-
it discuss anything with respect to sentencing, or does it just talk about prohibition?
I didn't see anything on sentencing in there.
Okay. Let's see. Exempts prohibition in some cases. Allows abortions in the case of rape or incest up to week 20 instead of week 6.
long as you can prove it. That's
Yeah,
but
that's, what's the word on that? Is it as accusation or proof? I think we said accusation. already.
accusation? Yeah, I'm sorry. As long as you have submitted a police report. But again, we can turn that around and straight up do the numbers 5 thing and be like, "Yo, she raped me and she's pregnant. I don't want
And
this child."
I didn't see any of the above listed in the actual bill. This seems more speculative, to be honest, on how that would be taken. It does, however, require that the professionals performing the abortion include in their reports, which have to be submitted,
to the Attorney General.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's violation of privacy issues.
Yeah,
isn't
it includes
Which
in
is
there
the
that
whole
they
Roe v.
have to
Wade thing.
include
Yeah,
how
now-
they determined.
14th Amendment is going to be, it
Yeah.
applies to this bill. Because
Yes.
They have
now
to include
your
how
medical
they
records go
determined.
to the Justice Department.
So they have the doctor or whoever's performing it has to include how they determined that it was rape or incest. Like that would be a thing they would have to include in their.
Oh,
Yeah, they have
Oh.
to. Yeah, yeah. So that's unconstitutional as fuck. But I mean, the entire thing is. So let's
when you're so I'm going to go ahead and say that when you're in a situation where let's assume that it is rape. When you're in a situation where you feel like you've been violated, they're then going to literally treat you as if you're running through the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
As if actually bringing formal charges against an accused rapist isn't hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already a problem. Not to mention what we brought up
Sorry, man.
earlier in the stream. This brings up that whole issue again, where now if you and your partner desperately need this abortion for any reason, financial, whatever, I already gave you fucking reductio. You just rewind to that if you want to say that this is the thing that's never going to happen. Rewind to the reductio ad absurdum to find the situation where a woman or anybody may feel like they're pressed to throw their partner under the bus to save themselves.
so we've talked about. I don't even think that's. So I think that's a really realistic situation, actually.
Oh, it's conspiracy to commit murder.
So this
Yeah.
allows abortions in cases where the child will not survive anyway. It requires providing medical aid to aborted fetuses that can survive if provided such aid. What?
Yes. So if
Yeah,
they're
welcome to
terminating
Texas.
if they're terminating a pregnancy, and the fetus could theoretically survive aided outside of the womb, they have to provide that aid to the fetus. They have to attempt to keep it alive. So let's say we have, for example, a situation of rape that they've determined it can be aborted, but it's late enough, maybe 18 or 19 weeks, and there's some new thing on the horizon that's maybe going to keep them alive. They have to try to keep that rape baby alive after removing it.
That's just,
Yep.
it's terrifying and infuriating.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Restricts those that can perform abortions of the first trimester.
After the first
After the first trimester, to the licensed hospitals.
ambulatory surgical centers, which I don't know, it's just in there.
Right. Okay. And then licensed abortion facilities,
Yeah. So,
which that's a whole nother issue about what a
Mhm.
licensed abortion facility is.
We ran
Also-
into that in Texas whenever they did their whole bullshit thing when Wendy Davis had her filibuster,
Mhm.
and I actually worked for Planned Parenthood for about a year. So I'm familiar with a lot of the admin related stuff that is required. And I'm originally from Corpus, and there was we had an abortion clinic in Corpus Christi that ended up having to close because the cost of renovating the clinic into an ambulatory surgical center was going to be too great for the doctor to undertake, because it requires massive upgrades and stuff, and the admitting privileges too. A lot of times there aren't hospitals that are wanting to give admitting privileges to the doctors who are
I
performing
will
the
at least
abortions.
grant them this much. At least this is explicitly for ones after the first trimester. So the first trimester abortions are not included in that requirement.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's still, there is that whole list of problems. It's just figured I'd go ahead and clarify that. We're not talking in those instances a 6-week abortion. We're talking.
Right.
Yeah, I have a question. If you have to get like life insurance for your fetus, what if your fetus dies?
Do you get to collect?
It's yes, it's a dumb question, but yeah,
It's a realistic question in this
And
instance.
it's not like yes, by the time you have a heartbeat that's detectable, miscarriage rates go down to like 1%, but 1 out of 100 still winds up being a lot of cases in any given year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially, well, oh Christ, especially in Georgia, which is number one in maternal mortality rates,
Yeah.
which will only go up at this point.
Yep.
So at that point, then, if you are the partner and they are and you're dependent, you would have a life insurance payout for both the maternal victim and for the fetus at that point.
That just seems
If they have every constitutional right,
dirty.
which is what like the first fucking page says.
Yeah.
This just, I didn't even think about that earlier when I was thinking about insurance and stuff. That just, I had
Life insurance.
Yeah.
The whole thing is crazy. It really is. And then when we're on the whole licensed facilities for the abortions, at the same time, that same section also explicitly requires anything after the first trimester to be done by a licensed physician specifically. Other licensed personnel, not necessarily. It has to be a licensed physician.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a super chat from Meredith Naven. I believe I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, though I could be wrong. Why is it that a corpse has more bodily autonomy than a woman? Do some people think that a dead person has more brain function than me? Yeah, that's one of the things that gets brought up in this conversation all the time. Remember that you can tell somebody that they can or cannot stick their hands in your corpse and pull out organs to give to somebody who needs it, but you can't. You don't have that same autonomy over your body while you're alive.
Yeah, it may seem ridiculous, but to me that seems like the biggest thing against any of these anti-abortion bills. It's not that I'm like, I would not want to have an abortion, but like the fact that you're literally saying that an embryo or a fetus inside of a woman has the right to continue being inside of this woman continuously, has the right to all these things. You wouldn't grant that to a child that's been born. You wouldn't grant that to anybody else. You wouldn't grant the right to even demand blood. And you don't grant the right to, get organs even when they're deceased. So how does this, why does anybody think it's okay in this one specific instance?
Is the women's.
Yeah, I mean, we would think it'd be the women's, but as far as I can tell, and as far as I saw, there are 0 women that actually signed that signed off on this.
Yeah,
0, right? That's the number. 0.
Probably.
I'm pretty certain that I saw that.
I don't know, but it sounds like it would be.
That I think that every person that is in like the Georgia State Senate or whatever it is, that has like anything to do with any of this, every person that signed off on this is like a white guy, which makes perfect sense. Georgia, for 40% of your population to be people of color, whatever.
I'd like to say that I'm surprised, but I'm not.
And then there's only like 4 women that are even loosely like attached to anything like this, and they're all 4 women of color, and they're all 4 Democrats, and they were not even like involved in this. That's an issue. And Cyrus and I have had the conversation more than once. Like, this is not one of those, men, why are you talking type things. No, this is one of those things like, where's the fucking equal representation?
Yeah, it's at, so like for me, when it comes down to a conversation, there was a thing that happened on Non Sequitur Show when I had my abortion debate with Catholic Fusionist, where 50 minutes in, we randomly got a female added into the conversation, and it kind of derailed a lot of the talk at that point, because we were already mid-debate. At that point, there's where I'm like, okay, look, no, if 2 people are here and they're the interlocutors, then don't shove somebody in. You wouldn't do that in any other kind of debate. However, when we're writing legislation, we have a very different story. When we're writing legislation, we need to, at the very least, include somebody who this is going to affect.
And the entire process of writing and passing legislation already inserts more people into the debate repeatedly. So it's not like there's no opportunity to do that just because the first people discussing didn't happen to be. It's not the same as just a one-on-one conversation in any stretch.
Yeah, this to call this, I think, a conversation at all, I think, is giving it a misnomer.
It's an insult to conversations.
Yeah, this was forced, as is the case, just as forced birth. This was forced through by white evangelical men,
Mm-hmm.
and it will affect not them. Well, it will affect them when, as has been the case that we've seen quite recently, they have to go and have an abortion for their, their little side chicks.
Or
That's usually the thing that shows up in conversations. But
if you want to rip at their heartstring, take the reductio argument and then just say, this is your daughter.
And of course, there's the fact that you could point out that they could be paying child support from week 6.
Yep, and by the way, sirs, and I'm not going to get involved in, and I get involved in it all the time. I'm not going to get in the firearm reform debate, but they don't care.
No, I recognize that they don't care that these things affect their children. I recognize that the people who are doing this, whether or not they intend on, whether or not this is their intention, because I do recognize that some of these people may legitimately think this is the best possible thing. Their intention is not to be evil. However, I would like to point out that nobody is the villain of their own story, so that argument doesn't even fucking matter. At the end of the day, if what you're doing is going to negatively affect people, and it's going to cause more of a negative effect than a positive one, which this bill will, then we have a problem. If I had the ability and I had the funding, I would like to be able to walk my happy ass up to Kemp and sit down with him and have a very, very civil conversation about why this is a dumb thing. Now, I may yell, but he's literally advocating for something that will slaughter the people who I love, so I feel like I'm entitled to that volume.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, you are entitled to that, but he's not going to listen to you for numerous reasons. I don't think that you're, as far as I can tell, you're okay with immigrants, right? Because he's not.
Yes, I know. The fact, but I am also
there's a million things that we disagree with Kemp on.
Yes.
One thing that I wanted to check mark from your comment earlier is that there does seem to be a lot of white evangelical women, especially in Georgia, that are also pro-life as fuck, and that were
yes,
involved
you're right.
in this
There
process.
are morons in Georgia.
Right. What I'm saying is that there's the white evangelical men comment, but in Georgia specifically, especially in relation to politics, there's a lot of women that are part of that movement as well that are behind this bill 100%. It passed our legislative bodies, and a lot of our representatives are women. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't seen a list, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the evangelical women representatives voted for this bill. So
sure, and to clarify, they're not off the hook, but the people that debated this and the people that wrote this, it's very specific. And looking around the country, looking at Oklahoma, looking at this bullshit in Texas, looking at North Dakota and all those things, we can look and we can see the people whose names are especially at the very top of these bills, and that's who it is 95% of the time. So I don't let anybody off the hook for endangering lives and forcing birth and then more death and then an economic downturn, Georgia, that you're going to see. But what we see with who actually authors these bills is most of the time white evangelical men.
Let's talk about that a little bit, the whole economic conversation, because that's something that's kind of interesting, that because we opened this talking about, right before we went on air, we were talking a little bit about this, where this affects my career, this affects career of people that I know personally. I know people that work at Turner, I know people that work at have worked for Marvel. I worked with Walking Dead for a little while. There's a lot of these big productions and production companies that are in Georgia now are in a situation in which, do we continue funding this economy? And this issue has come up before. There was the religious rights bill. It was horribly fucking written.
You two want
And
to go ahead
our
and
governor,
go
Nathan
on to
Deal,
say things here in a little bit.
was looking at this bill, and what he said, his statement was that if you can give me a bill that fosters religious rights, but doesn't hammer, that doesn't use it in a way that is discriminatory, I'll sign it. A bill passed the Senate and a bill passed the House, went to the desk of Nathan Deal. When it went to the desk of Nathan Deal, Home Depot spoke out against it. Delta spoke out against it. The film industry came out against it. Coca-Cola spoke out against it. All these are companies that are based in Atlanta, based in Georgia, and tons of film production companies that are opening up stages and production houses here in Georgia all spoke out against it. The game changed a bit at that front. Nathan Deal's response to it was one of respectable strength. I think what he said was, "I will not bow down to companies that trying to bully me into a position, simply not happening." But what he said was, "I will not be signing this bill because it doesn't get to my standards of disagreeing of supporting religious rights without being discriminatory. This bill is discriminatory. I therefore will not fucking sign it." And threw it back to the House, and they couldn't overrule the veto. So but it came through that, yeah, there's a lot of industries in Georgia that are very much against this kind of crap. And this bill should apply in those kind of situations. Kemp has signed this one. Now, what is going to be happening as a result of that? I don't necessarily know. But a lot of people that I know are talking about moving as a result of this. I don't know what these large companies are going to be doing as a result of this. But it could have, let's say people make petitions to Coca-Cola. Are you going to be keeping your HQ in Atlanta? Home Depot, are you going to be keeping your HQ in Atlanta? Etc. And like all the Marvel movies that have been made down here, we did Spider-Man, Black Panther, Homecoming, I'm saying Spider-Man twice. So Spider-Man, Black Panther, the Infinity War films, like a ton of Marvel stuff was done here, and Walking Dead was done here. A shitload of other movies were done here. We were making productions. There were points at this city in which there were 12 productions going on at the same time, all of them in excess of $10 million funding. So that's crazy. And then commercials on top of that.
We'll just focus on this for now.
All that as you pointed out, it's a $2.7 billion industry right now, as far as direct revenue being put into the tax money, not just spending, but direct revenue being put into the tax money. And you want to put that under threat? This is an incredibly mobile industry. We will leave at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, they're actually the guy that wrote the Wire. He actually, that was like an hour ago. He was like, "Yo, I'm out." And then the person that was involved with, what is it? Like a show called Carol, I think. She's the one that wrote that. She's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this."
I think Alyssa Milano also said
that's
Alyssa Milano. Okay, so here's let me give you because there's some shit with Alyssa Milano as far as our industry is concerned. Alyssa Milano started talking about how because Kemp was elected, she wasn't interested in working in Georgia. So her voice on this whole abortion thing as a result of that is, from my perspective, I'm like, because what her response was, okay, I won't be working in Georgia because Kemp got elected. Her reasoning for that was, now, okay, fine, I'm going to take jobs away from everybody in Georgia that probably was supportive of me. Right? So who voted for Kemp? Wasn't the film industry. Definitely wasn't. So you're going to boycott our state and hurt everybody that was trying to help? That's idiotic. With respect to the abortion bill, though, the abortion bill changes things a little bit because, actors boycotting productions in Georgia only hurts people that are supportive, because the conservatives in the film industry are few and far between, and most of the ones that are here are in the Christian film industry. And
wait. No.
Who gives a fuck?
No, case
is Alyssa Milano going to be preventing a Christian film from being made? No. Otherwise, she's hurting people that would otherwise agree with her. So, that issue, as far as like how to boycott, what to do about it, that kind of stuff, as far as what can celebrities do, gets really complicated because a lot of the actions that they can do are just going to negatively affect people that agree with them rather than anybody else.
Yeah.
So that being said, the things that rule the industry are politics and accountants, and we lean to the accountants. So it's still profitable to shoot here, but public pressure could take that profitability and be like, it's a liability now.
Yeah.
Having that peach at the end of your movie, like Infinity War did, shot in Georgia.
Yeah.
Now you're subjecting yourself to boycott.
Yeah. The TV show Archer, right? Made in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That's because like the animation companies, like Cartoon Network is here, and everything that's associated, like
High Res Studios,
Cartoon
is
Network
here as
being
well.
here. Yeah, Cartoon Network being here, by extension, you get a lot of companies that were started by people who used to work at Cartoon Network, a lot of people who do ancillary companies that work with Cartoon Network or that do their own shows.
Does that mean Adult Swim's there too? Adult
Swim is here, yes.
Yeah.
Good friends of mine have worked with Adult Swim doing commercials for Rick and Morty and all that kind of stuff. It's big here. If you want to work in the film industry here, there's a lot of potential. And to get on like stuff of reasonable name. But how mobile that industry is, because what do you need to make a film? You need people and you need a stage. Those are really easy things to move, especially if you want to go to like California, where there's already a bunch of stages that aren't being used because the shooting ratio has gone down there. If there's a tax break that shows up in California, guess what? So that's the reason why there's all this shooting going on here, is because of a tax break in Georgia. Accountants agree with the tax break, so there's shooting going on here.
Yeah,
that can change.
Oh yeah, look at North Carolina, right? Remember the bathroom bill in North Carolina?
Oh yeah.
The NFL, the NCAA.
Two things happened with that. One, bathroom bill came out. Two, they removed their exemptions, the tax exemptions. So their film industry is making a ton of rebates a ton of money on rebates in North Carolina and Louisiana. Now, those were removed for one reason, which was North Carolina was getting purple. Louisiana was getting purple. So they removed those things. And all of a sudden, all the purple went away because the people that were moving into the state in huge amounts to work in that industry, which produces billions of dollars in revenue, lean blue. So you do have the same thing going on in Atlanta. Atlanta's already crazy blue. You got a bunch of people moving into Atlanta. The state starts turning purple. If all those people leave as a result of this bill, state turns red. 13 electoral votes, or 15 now, I think. So I have to look that up. It's either 13 or 15. I think it used to be 13. It changed. So now the risks of Georgia going blue in a national election suddenly gets alleviated because a bunch of people left in 2020, an election year.
Yep.
Think about it. It's a good way to keep Georgia red.
You have 16, by the way.
16. Okay, well then fucking more than I thought. That's a lot of electoral votes on the table as far as Kemp wanting to make it. And furthermore, Kemp secures his next election if a large number of people that disagree with him on this subject leave the state as a result.
Yeah, and
how easy is his next election? All the people that disagree with him left on an extremist issue.
Well, not only that as well, 2020 is the census, and they have to redistrict everything before February of 2021, I think.
And are we counting fetuses?
Have to. At this point, the fetuses have to be included. So, it might you might still have like the same number of the population, air quotes that one, but you now would basically cede the election and the next 10 years to Republicans, who are going to continue to try and do things just like this to force a theocracy, to force Sharia, Okay, let's just go ahead. And I'm just gonna every time that happens.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but
I'm just
as far as like its relationship with it, I think that like implies something that's completely different. But at the same time, I get the point you're making. Yeah,
yeah. Say it for a reason. Like that way, they make that fucking connection.
Right.
I obviously don't think it's Sharia because I understand what Sharia is.
Right. Allowing for Sharia law there's a whole different
definitely
that goes into that. But the what you're saying as far as it being religious law and theocratically justified, yes, I agree with that point that you're making. I think that's the thing you're trying to stick.
Yeah, and they're okay with it as long as Jesus is involved. Well, as long as it keeps them in power, Jesus wise.
So I wish there was a rule, and I want to advocate for a rule in legislation where if you, because I listened to this bill get signed in. I listened to the conversation where the guy basically said, "Oh, I know there's going to be opposition to this, but blah, 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 blah." Whenever I hear, like, God-given right, whenever I hear God anything, if I hear anything theism-related in why you're doing legislation, unless it's talking about, like, granting protections for or something like that, I kind of want that to be the signal that the person is just escorted off stage. and just like you bring up another person to go, okay, try again.
I wonder if you have like a transcript of somebody saying that, if there's a Chrome extension where you can replace God-given right with like bigotry given rights or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing where
I'm sure you can. There are multiple extensions that will change one word for another, so
Chrome is the best.
Chrome is the best because Chrome not only has an extension where it writes Donald Trump's tweets in crayon, it also has an extension where it replaces pictures of Donald Trump with pictures of kittens. So when I view Friendly Atheist, it's much different now.
Yeah, it's crazy now. Well, I have this, and Ocean, you and I spoke about this before we went on air, is I'm not from Texas, and by all accounts, a lot of times I hate the state.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome, babe. She has ink on her with the outline of some weird state.
I have a Texas tattoo.
Oh, that's what it is. And if there are three places that I have like three places I would like to grow old and die. One of them is Lincoln, Nebraska. One of them is Portland, Oregon, or Pacific Northwest in that area, preferably on Mount St. Helens. That'd be great. Or Finland, right? And so people tell me, well, if you don't like this place so much, why do you stay here? And she actually asked me the other day, why did you come back? If you remember that, because I lived here for a couple of years a while back. And I stay here because I believe that we can make change. Right. And Texas is, as we mentioned, turning purple. We turned Tarrant County blue, motherfuckers.
We did.
And so that helps me to stay. Texas or DFW is the fastest growing metropolitan area in the entire country. And it's not all blue people.
No.
But I stay here specifically because of that. Because I believe that in the face of this, what seems like a unrelenting tide of xenophobia and racism and all of this.
Red tide. You're welcome.
Thanks, babe. We believe we can make a difference, and that's why we're still here.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much that, and I know I especially understanding your industry though, how much that actually, and we're activists. Not everybody's an activist, we know that. But how much that is taken into account whenever a person is saying, I don't want to give up my home. I don't want to give up the rights that we fight so hard for before they leave and before you would make that decision. I know it's tough.
Yeah.
And from my perspective,
I'm even still here.
From my perspective, there's obviously a lot of problems with leaving. There's also a lot of problems with staying, because now anybody that I'm even casually dating is now at a risk that is just unreasonable. Now, is that the kind of sacrifice I want to make in my life as an activist? Is just living in a place that has these shitty laws? I don't know if I'm interested in doing that.
Yeah.
So, given how ridiculous that law is, I don't think that I'd want to, I will year by year pay taxes in that state. So I will be funding that.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that got under my skin when I was thinking about it, because at first, and granted, this is the issue with like just buying a house here. Like I don't have much of an option but to be here now for at least a good chunk of time. But the fact that I will be funneling taxes into a state that I cannot support, like I cannot agree with the legislation that has been passed, that causes a problem in the back of my head. Like it really does.
Yeah. It is. Susan and I talk about it not as regularly as we once did, I don't think, but we can see, because shit happens even in DFW, and Texas. I brought up like the firearm thing a little bit ago, just like in passing, when we were down in Austin for Atheist Day, and there were people there that were like the come and take it motherfuckers. And they just happened to see that we were there as atheists, and they were walking around really trying to intimidate us with weapons. And so for she and I have like PTSD when it comes to guns. I can't, I just can't anymore. And, right. And so for us to stay here in that kind of a thing, I hate that we have to even consider that these days, that it's not just that I don't agree with my representative. Like, it's the fact that the people that are in power are making decisions against the will of the people that negatively affect people to the point to where people literally die.
Yep.
And our biggest thing is, am I willing to stay here and fight against this and possibly die? And it's really tough.
It's a very fine line to walk when you live in states like, I mean, all of us do. When you have to, you have to walk a very fine line between, do I want to try and stay here and make that difference, or do I want to basically keep the last shreds of sanity that I have? And being someone who has been involved with reproductive justice and that sort of activism for the last 8 years, it's always been a fight. It's always been a really, really big thing. I've raised money for my local abortion funds, every year since 2012. I've done that. I've been in the position where I didn't, have to use the abortion funds, but I have had an abortion. And living in Texas, it was pre, whatever. I don't even remember what that HB was. The Wendy Davis stuff, before the clinic in Corpus Christi closed down. And it's something that is very, very real to someone like me, because it's something that I've been through.
What was can I ask her if
are you going to interview me right now?
If she's willing, if she's willing to share her story, can I ask?
I would say, given the nature of this, yes, with one caveat.
Yes.
As soon as that is done, hold on 1 second. As soon as that is there, and no, I would not be pissed. If you want to do that, go ahead. I do know that Aaron probably wants to also talk about how something like this is probably going to affect her as well. So I'll
keep it brief.
So my issue is not that you can't have a story. My issue is that I want 2 stories.
I will keep it brief.
And these are, and if I may, these are not uncommon stories.
No.
This is 1 in 3?
1 in 4.
1 in 4 women have an abortion.
Mm-hmm. Where do you want me to start? Ask me questions. I don't know.
So you had an abortion in Texas?
I did. I had an abortion in Texas in 2009. So it was still during a time when you had to get past throngs of protesters, which is still a thing.
That was still a thing in 2000, like what we saw.
That was a thing in 2000.
We saw that in Kentucky the other day.
Yeah. It's when I worked for Planned Parenthood, I worked in admin rather than in a health center. So but I am familiar with, for personal experience, anti-choice protesters and how mean, nasty, and awful they can get, because I've been a clinic escort as well.
So you had in the state of Texas, you have to wait 24 hours.
Yeah, right? There's the mandatory waiting period, and
they give you literature of some sort.
Yes, they require you to. I heard Lady Unicorn mention the transvaginal ultrasound, so that was something that I had to go through. Required. And they were required to show me the screen with the ultrasound, and I don't remember if they actually described it or something. I know that was a requirement at some point. I don't remember if that's what they did.
I think it's they have to find it and then ask you if you can hear it.
Right. Yeah. Ask you if you want to see it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Make sure that you are aware that it's a thing. So you have to go have the initial appointment and then leave, go back 24 hours later, and then go through the procedure. And I had a surgical abortion, so I was under anesthesia for it. So granted, my experience, because I was able to be under anesthesia, was far less. It's not the word I want to use. It was far different than what people who use the misoprostol go through, because it all happened in a clinic rather than potentially happening at home.
So you, because one thing that you and I have not spoken about, and I want to go back to that, going into the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
There were protesters there.
Oh yeah.
And then that day,
mm-hmm.
and then there were protesters there the next day as well.
Oh yeah, they were there constantly. Even after the clinic in Corpus Christi closed down, the 40 Days for Life held literally a prayer vigil outside of a closed abortion clinic in 2014. And
because prayer is going to do so much to that.
Right. It's like, what good is this going to do you now? I don't understand. So of course the Corpus Christi atheists group went down there and had a counter protest, and I had a sign that said, "Ask me about my abortion."
Yeah.
And I had somebody admit to the fact that they actually didn't want to take away a woman's right to choose, and we said, "All right, we're done here. We're good."
Yeah. So what did you feel like after you had not necessarily physically, but emotionally, and then do you ever regret it?
I will answer the second question first. No, I do not regret it in the slightest, because I know who I am as a person. I have been afforded many opportunities in my life that I would not have been able to have if I had a child. There are many things that I have been able to do, places I've been able to go, things I wouldn't have been able to experience. Afterwards, there was a sense of, how when you're anxious about something and nervous about something and you get yourself worked up and your muscles are tense, and once that thing finally happens, for a little while you're still tense, but then you do have that eventual
mm-hmm.
release. It took probably about a week, but I did eventually have that release of, okay, I'm good. I got through it.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to actually have that strength to get through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We went to an event January, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a Shout Your Abortion thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there were, beside you and then other brave individuals,
mm-hmm.
of the people you've spoken with, and this will be, this is the last question.
Last thing, promise.
How many of the people that you've spoken with who have had an abortion can look at you and say that, or that you've spoken with, say, I never want anybody to have this right to do this.
How many people say that?
Like that
literally none.
Like that would say, not necessarily that they regret it, but that nobody should have the right to have an abortion.
Literally none. Nobody would say that. There's been a couple of studies that I've found that say that women are just as sure about having an abortion as they are about taking antidepressants during pregnancy and having prenatal tests and varying things of that nature. It's a medical decision, and it's one that is not, sometimes it's not the easiest for people to make, but regardless, it's a medical decision.
Well, there you go, sirs. Thank you for.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I would be the one thanking you because, like, again, the idea of making sure that people can actually associate this issue with real humans, because I think that's the thing. That's the thing, is that there's this idealized way, and I'm going to get Aaron here in just a second, but there's this idealized way that this conversation ends up going. Like, and when you look through, and people on screen can see that I'm scrolling through the bill, whereas there's a point in here where it specifically talks about what does and doesn't constitute a person. When you have this idealized thing, here we go, natural person means any person including the unborn child. When you have this like idealistic society where the unborn child and the human being can exist perfectly fine together, that's a wonderful utopian idea, and yes, should we strive for utopian ideas? Absolutely. However, what world do we live in? We live in a dirty, grimy, mucky, piss-poor world where this idealistic view of how things are is being called idealistic for a reason. It's because it's not realistic. This is not something... If we could achieve this world, it would require a fundamental changing of the one we currently live in. We do not have the means, nor the funding, nor the wherewithal to reach a world where this type of idealistic thinking is merited. So the idea that, oh, well, in a perfect world, yeah, they should both have their rights, they should both have this, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Do we live in a perfect world? No. Let's try to work with the one we've got, okay? There's already enough fairy tales in the Bible. We don't need to try to pretend that this world is one too.
Right.
Yeah.
But, but now that I've...
Well, if you will, what's unfortunate is that the world that we look at in the Bible, that was once a real world, and they're trying to go back to that.
Mm-hmm. That's scary.
It's not the fairy tale they fucking think it is.
No.
But with that said, I'm going to hop out for just a moment, allow Erin to come in and speak her piece about how something like this will affect her, so she can give her story as well for when you had to go through with it.
Yeah, because it wasn't a pleasant experience.
Yep. So in that, I'm going to hand this off to her, and we're going to trade off for a moment. This means I need to go under the wire. I can do it, I swear. Oh, God. That's gravity.
That is gravity. Good job. Oh, God. Big head. Hello? I can't hear y'all.
Sorry, yeah, that's because we muted ourselves.
Oh.
Well, she and I were...
I was not aware.
She and I
was not aware that I was muted.
Kind of going back and forth. Hey again, by the way.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Existing.
We were looking at the comments to see how people had, kind of like responded to her story and stuff. So we were kind of chatting a little bit. We didn't want it to interfere with anything.
I'm so sorry about that then.
No, not at all.
No, you're
please,
good.
Please.
Yeah, give a story, and then Nathaniel, if you want to interview her as well after.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Oh, yeah. If as long as you're comfortable with that, sure.
Absolutely, go for it.
So I've actually had to have an abortion for medical reasons. In case anybody was not aware, hi, I'm Erin. I am extremely disabled. And because of my disabilities, a pregnancy is very dangerous, very deadly. And I am also not very consistent and regular. So what happened was about 12 weeks I'm sorry, I'm trying to like also hear my voice to make sure I'm not shouting. At about 12 weeks,
You're coming in great.
I found out I was pregnant. And I found out because I went to the hospital because I got very, very ill. And they could have kept me alive for the entire pregnancy to die on the table for the rest of the pregnancy. However, it was going to end from I died on the table, and the baby was already showing severe genetic deficiencies and disabilities as well, so we were both going to die. So, I don't really talk about it. Afterwards, I got a lot of hate because they were like, oh, you had an abortion, you blah, blah, blah. Well, now I know that one, that wasn't warranted at all. I didn't know I was disabled at the time. First of all, I was 20. I didn't get diagnosed till I was 21. And 2, I've now learned that my disabilities make pregnancy deadly. As in, I can carry if I spend my whole pregnancy in the hospital and then I just die. Or I have a C-section, but then that's still a risk for death. Like, that's a... So when you have heartbeat bills like this, now I can't sit there and go, oh, I found out at 12 weeks, but I know I'm going to die. Well, it's after 6 weeks. Sorry, you get to die now.
They do have provisions against, in that kind of situation, that the controversy that we were talking about was whether or not a doctor agrees with you.
And that's the thing,
You
is
have to get a doctor to sanction that risk.
You now have to get a doctor to go, abortion's probably going to be the better option, but we can keep you alive to have this baby, and that it'll be fine. Because they could keep me hospitalized the entire pregnancy and bedridden in a hospital, but it's still bedridden in a hospital walking to my death.
We were just discussing that temporary disability as a result of birth or pregnancy is not a good enough reason for an abortion, according to this bill.
Correct. Yeah, that's what we read that as.
Yep.
If I ask anything that's too personal, feel free to tell me. What state were you in?
I'll smack him for you.
Yeah.
I was actually in the military in Florida.
Okay. So was your procedure done at a military facility?
It was, they were trying to debate. They were like, well, we could keep you alive, but here are your chances. And it was like, this is what you can do. They let me make the choice, and they were like, well, you also have to ask, your significant other, which, if you don't know anything about my significant other of the time, it was the same instance where I now have scars from said significant other.
Oh, well, good. If nothing else, it's great to see that you made it through that, and that that you are in the good place that you are now, which is certainly something. Regardless, we never like to hear anything like that.
Brandon Ellers. I want to be very honest. I didn't have premarital sex. Thank you.
Oh, far as I can tell, that
referring to the significant other of the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't consensual. Fuck you. Let's go.
So Susan had she had general anesthesia. She was right, and so she was unconscious for the. Was yours the same as her surgically, or did you have what's the pill, the
misoprostol?
I had the misoprostol.
I actually went with a friend of mine the first time I was down here in Texas. They went down to Huntsville to Planned Parenthood, and she got that. And she did it. She had to take like 2 pills,
Yeah.
And
it's rough.
Say again.
It's rough.
Yeah. It would. I don't know that she told me that she didn't have anybody there that would have that she didn't think she would have survived.
Yeah.
It was atrocious. And then it was like a couple months later, I had injured my shoulder, and it ended up like, oh, your shoulder shouldn't have dislocated like this. And it was like, you might have these weird issues, but we won't know for a couple months because you're injured, and we're not going to sit there and medically test you for all this stuff.
Golly.
And then I ended up getting diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos and POTS and HNPP, and
So you have, this one then is whereas Susan is, Susan's reasons obviously had to do with the fact that the quality of life for both herself and then for anything that she would give birth to mattered. It's less
Also diabetes too.
Oh,
You always forget that I'm
I always
diabetic,
forget
don't you?
diabetes. I'm so sorry. She's type 1 diabetic, and so that matters.
definitely.
But yours has to do with obviously the fact that one of you, if not both, will not survive the pregnancy.
But guaranteed I wouldn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which would then put a child without a mother into the world. And in Georgia, that happens more often than any other state. That would increase. So how, if you were addressing this to... Yeah, do what I do to Susan. Click mute, Susan. If you were addressing this to say Kemp or any part of legislation or anybody that represents you in Georgia, how would you present this? Because I don't know that they ever think about anything like this. How would that be presented? Nope, I think that
she's taken off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I honestly don't know how to answer that question.
I think I think a lot of it, the typical arguments that you can use, like, oh, you're placing more value on.
Oh my God! I just saw that. I just saw the Brandon Ellers stuff happening in the chat recently. I'm sorry that the F word. I'm going to go ahead and use your rhetoric against you if you don't mind for just a second. It's okay. Just indulge me for a second. And I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm sorry that the F word triggers you in a way that you don't think that telling somebody else they deserve to die didn't. This is why I'm going to make my video entitled, This Will Be Demonetized. Because there are things that people say, like fuck, shit, damn, ass, cunt, that actually don't affect anybody. They don't. But there are things that do affect people, like the R slur, that people seem to feel like they can say perfectly fine, but fuck hurts their feelsies. Sorry.
I would like to chime in. Fuck you. That is my best friend, Aaron is, and I just want to say you can go fuck yourself. Do-do-do, do-do-do.
Recognize her.
That was awesome.
Yeah. But no,
No, but I mean, these pretty much any argument you're going to use that is on the pro-choice side of things isn't going to mean jack shit to people who don't place value on women. And we can sit here and say all day long, well, it doesn't matter.
We'll just say they don't place value on human life. Take their entire rhetoric and shove it up their ass.
Yeah, pretty much.
And they they can. I had somewhere I was going and I don't remember. I'm brain farting right now.
No, she's not wrong. These are the same people and they are far and away the people that I have conversations with regarding reproductive justice are the same people that I have conversations with regarding firearm reform
and immigration.
They are the same people more often than not. I'm not going to blanket statement anybody. Not all me. But and when I have these conversations, most of the time, you're right. No matter what we say, and no matter humanizing matters, and so seeing that there's a person behind this matters. But it's unfortunate that they don't care.
No, they don't. I think. Sorry, I'm taking off my boot.
No surgery.
Yeah, I don't have to have surgery. For anybody who saw me at Faithless Forum, I was the one behind the American Atheists table hobbling around in the boot. I don't have to have surgery.
You had to like crawl around to get on couches and stuff.
I did.
I was there for that.
You encouraged that, actually.
I did encourage that.
The one that makes
no, but I mean, like, control and the one that, you can use the argument they don't care until it happens to them all day long, but they don't care even when it happens to them.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit. And it's like Nancy Reagan not caring about gay people until one of her children came out as gay. I don't know.
So then no, you're not wrong. So then I think the next question is, because Ocean and Cirrus, obviously Ocean has more mobility, and can, if necessary, and if he so chooses, maybe not as easily as we would like.
Everybody has more mobility than I do right now.
Maybe be able to move. Now, it would affect his finances, obviously. It would affect relationships. It would affect a lot of things, but he has the ability to do that. Cirrus doesn't necessarily have the ability to do that. So then it comes down to the question we have next is, knowing that we are on the right side of history and knowing that what we are doing is right, what do we do? Because it's just going to be every single time it's going to be this again. The fact that we're bringing up so many, there's like 15 states right now with bullshit like this.
Yeah.
And the question is, what do we do?
So the first thing that you can do always is advocate for education. I know that sounds like a blanket, like default thing, but it's really fucking important when you live in a place that advocates for abstinence-only education. It is a very important thing to educate people, because the only way you can change any of this, aside from somehow magically managing to get into office yourself, is by voting these issues out of office.
Yeah.
Voting for the people who will actually work to get these issues repealed, to get them fixed. But for you to do that, your vote alone is not enough, and I cannot stress that. Your vote alone, if you think that is enough, it is not. Your vote alone, and if you're in a situation where you cannot do more, then that is fine. Nobody is saying that you have to, otherwise your vote's invalid. No, that's not what I'm saying. Your vote matters, but you need to be educating people on the issues if you can, if you have a platform, if you have the ability to, if you have an audience, even if that audience is your family, and there is something that you stand for that you think is an issue that needs to be fixed, you can work and do your best to educate so that you can get people who can vote, because 5 votes are better than 1 and 10 votes are better than 1. And if you can manage to get 20 or 30, that's still better than 1. If you can educate people so that they can vote and help fix these issues, that's one of the biggest things you can do. The other thing you can do is actually vote. There are enough people who say that their vote doesn't matter, their vote doesn't count, and all it takes is enough of them to be on the wrong side saying their vote doesn't count for the people who vote anyway, whether or not their vote counts, to then get their people represented and screw us over. Cough, cough, Kemp.
Yeah.
So I would like to point out, I don't think this was actually mentioned because this has been tweeted since at 6:38 p.m. Central Time, so about an hour ago. Elise Hogue, who is with NARAL Pro-Choice America, which is a wonderful organization you should support. The Lieutenant Governor of Alabama straight up says their statewide abortion ban is designed to overturn Roe v. Wade and credits Donald Trump with remaking the judiciary to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
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 I have the statement if you would like me to read it, but I can I'll retweet it.
No, go ahead. Read it.
Well, so Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth released the following statement regarding Thursday's Senate action on abortion ban legislation that is a direct attempt to overturn the U.S. Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision. Quote, "Since taking the gavel, I have worked hard to follow both the spirit and letter of the Senate rules, and I will continue that practice as long as I am presiding officer." It is important that we pass this statewide abortion ban legislation and begin a long overdue effort to directly challenge Roe v. Wade. Now that President Donald Trump has supercharged the effort to remake the federal court system by appointing conservative jurists who will strictly interpret the Constitution, I feel confident that the U.S. Supreme Court will overturn Roe and finally correct its 46-year-old mistake. By ratifying a constitutional amendment declaring Alabama a pro-life state, offering generous tax incentives to families who adopt, and pushing legislation that gives a voice to the voiceless, I am proud that Alabamians are leading the nation in protecting unborn life. Hey, Will Ainsworth, go fuck yourself. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
That's actually, wow. I cannot believe they included that at the end of that.
Yeah.
Wow, they put everything in there. Will Ainsworth.
So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that.
Yourselves, yeah.
We're gonna do that thing, where you say the thing that required the double take again, so the audience can double take twice. The very last part of that they included.
By ratifying a constitutional amendment declaring Alabama a pro-life state, offering generous tax incentives to families who adopt, and pushing legislation that gives a voice to the voiceless, I am proud that Alabamians are leading the nation in protecting unborn life.
A constitutional amendment
to their state constitution.
Yeah.
That's the way they're trying to do it now, obviously. And that's again, this is the throw whatever the fuck you can at the wall, see what sticks, and then try and just piece it all together
spaghetti legislation.
See if you can get it up to the Supreme Court, which is there was a tweet that was sent, and I want to agree with this tweet so bad. I hate that I want to, but it was the South was a mistake. Can we Thanos snap it and restart?
I mean, at this point, I would be okay with
becoming dust,
not surviving the snap.
Hey guys, I don't feel so good, Mr. Helltoy.
Aww.
What about like?
No, I'm sad.
Alabama. See, I haven't been able to do this to Georgia.
Does that make me Iron Man? Anyway,
it does. Good luck with that.
Well, I don't know. At best, you and I are definitely, Xavier. At best.
Is it only by merits of being bald? Because
I'm Obadiah, then.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I just want to be Vision.
So we get to kill you in the first movie. The MCU began. Ocean's dead.
He could have survived. I mean, if we go back to the timeline, no, never mind. No. I haven't been able to do this to you, Georgia, because you're 33rd in revenue and income, and you're 38 in per capita income. So congratulations, you're not Alabama. Dear Alabama, I can do this to you. You're in the bottom 10 in high school graduation rates. You're in the bottom 10 top 10 in poverty. You're in the bottom 10 when it comes to unemployment. You're in the top 10 obesity. You're in the top 10 in amount of people that smoke. You're like number 2 in gay porn. Right? I don't care about your gay porn. I don't care. I'm just saying
Atlanta's gay as fuck. All right.
I like the cackle.
But you're not Alabama gay. Well, at least you don't hide it. That's what I'm saying.
No, Atlanta is like out and proud and ready to go. Like we have rainbow fucking sidewalks over here. It's
nice.
Or a crosswalk. There's a rainbow crosswalk. I think I want to say it's in East Atlanta Village, but
is it in Peachtree? Because that would just make me so happy if that were the case.
Oh, that would be funny, wouldn't it? I don't know. I think it might be. Let me just look up where
put it next to the stadium. By the way, that's people might think that I'm being homophobic when I say that. No, Alabama is homophobic, and then we find them on their gay porn. You have STI rates that are higher than the national average. It's
at Piedmont and 10th.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. Not Peachtree.
We have ways to go. You're in the top 10 in damn it, in
Which
teen
one?
pregnancy rates.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You fall off the map on pretty much everything, but you're super good at basically you're really good at being poor and forcing people to stay poor. So
Hey, speaking of that, I want to go ahead and show that graphic that you sent me now. I
Yeah,
think this is
thanks.
I think this is a good time to do it now that we're at this part of the conversation.
thanks.
So here's the teen birth rate in the United States, just in case anybody was unaware of like how much this happens in the states where they're trying to pass this shit. Here you go. Have fun. Have fun with that. The voice is gonna break.
Yeah. I'm waiting for it to pop up on the
Pop up
screen.
there.
Yeah.
Notice that like
There you go.
Oh yeah, I feel like
everything
that's in our presentation.
It is in our presentation.
Everything is red as shit. And then there's
Uh-huh.
Georgia that's just about there.
Yep. And
Like-
actually, I sent you the other graph, right?
Mhm.
Which actually has by county, and it's actually Georgia is not far off, like the entire state. But you can see
Yeah,
it.
if we do this by county, then Georgia looks much worse.
Yeah.
Here, let's go ahead and throw the one up that's by county. If we do this by county, Georgia starts to look a little worse. Because if you notice, all of southern Georgia is red.
Yeah, and by the way, we mentioned that earlier as well. Why that matters? That is a cool overlay.
Nice.
Thank you. But wow, that is, dude,
That's
that
legit.
matches the colors fucking perfectly.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So I can just do this. Boom.
I'm not seeing it yet.
Oh, really? I can see it. You see it on the.
Yeah.
That
On the
is-
regular stream.
I see it.
Okay.
I was literally 6 minutes behind on
Oh.
on the stream earlier today.
Yeah.
Like I was watching it at work, and I'm all like, "Oh, that's what they were talking about."
These
in the stream.
states, and this is a nice little red. I wish that I could see this, but it's a nice little red line, if you will, right up there through West Virginia and Kentucky. These are the states, and this is actually really great because this matters when you get up to Ohio, which is right up there. But you look at those states; those are the states, by and large, outside of Texas, that have the highest unemployment, that have the highest number of STIs. This is, you see this right here is teen birth rate and teen pregnancy rates. Notice, by the way, that pregnancy rates are not the same thing as teen birth rates. There is a difference. There's a fucking reason for it. Also, DFW, which that's where we live, is number one in the nation in repeat teen pregnancy rates. So high. You can also see where they don't teach sex education. Those numbers correlate. And they do.
This is also they correlate with the STI rates as well, pretty handedly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like almost,
oh yeah.
almost universally, your STI rate goes up in areas that have worse sexual education.
Yeah.
Every time I've gotten in this conversation when somebody says abstinent-only education works, I show them like not these specific graphs, but graphs that are very close to this, and just go, look, I have a question. Why is it that every single state that has an abstinence-only predominantly education also happens to have a really high rate of STIs? I understand that correlation is not the same thing as causation. Otherwise, we could predict death rates based on ice cream sales. But
you went back to the SJ debate. Good job.
Yes, I did.
High
I
five.
really enjoyed that debate. That was a
Yeah.
very fucking good debate. But I recognize that correlation is not causation. However, I also recognize that math is math.
Yeah.
And some of this shit's really easy to parse out.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
They also have. You can look at it too. You can look at their unemployment rates. These numbers, like, they match. And by the way, we didn't choose to make blue better. Okay, this is not our graph.
No.
It just happens to be that,
It just worked out that way.
yeah, the places that are more blue they teach sex education. They have access to pre and postnatal care. They have higher, like, economic standards, higher standard of living, all the above. It's not our fault that this is what the numbers bear out. And everything we actually give this is part of our presentation we give on the need for required fact-based sex education in all public schools. There's reason that we show these graphs, and with every single source, there's nothing that's not sourced.
Right.
Um,
It's almost like education is a good thing.
What?
and
It's almost like when I said
fucking kidding me right now.
It's almost like when I said that voting is only half of the equation, and that education's the other half of it. It's almost like I wasn't lying.
Sorry, babe. It's crazy to think that, sir. It's like, oh my, it's not crazy to think
could
that
tell the truth about something.
It's not crazy to think that you were right about this. No, but it is. It's what we see with this. Beyond that, we also see that these are the places where abortions are most restricted, and this is also where we see.
Did you already mention poverty?
Oh yeah, the poverty line. The amount of people below poverty. It's also where the most people of color live, and they are affected more than anybody else, especially because white Americans are both things. One, not having as many children, but also having them at a later age,
and also awful.
I mean, there are portions, and
some of us are.
Yeah, and we also see on that, but they also have the greatest amount of restriction when it comes to getting reproductive care.
Yeah.
We see that they have the highest infant mortality rates. They have the highest maternal mortality rates.
Yeah.
They have highest STI rates, the highest rates of not just that, but also repeat STIs. And they also have the highest number of HIV and AIDS, which, by the way, most of that is going to come between. It's like 50% of all new STIs come between the ages like 13 and 17.
Yeah.
And these aren't numbers we're just pulling out of our ass either. We're really good at this. We know this stuff.
This is very, very intensively researched.
And so what Georgia has put on the books that will be overturned, I am confident, but still that's not the point. What Alabama right next door is trying to do, what Mississippi is trying to do, what Iowa tried to do, what Texas is trying to do, Louisiana, you look at them and it's actually kind of terrifying for the people that it's going to affect, because these are already people who already face mountains that they have to climb to even come close to economic equality or social equality. And sometimes the mountains are so steep that they can't climb them. And now we're putting more things in the way, some of which will undoubtedly lead to more and more death. And also will lead, there's also a correlation with poverty and crime rates and things like this because of poverty. And so it's what they're doing in Georgia. Guys, I'm sorry. I wish that I could do something like right now. We can in the future, but I wish I could do something right now.
I mean, so what I will say,
it's not in effect currently, but it has been passed. So.
It has been passed as of January 1st, 2020. This is the reality that we live in. Like I literally got a message from my mother, like during the course of this, because we were talking a little bit during this, and it basically amounted to, when you guys can afford it, you need to get Pam's tubes tied because her life literally is at risk as a result of this.
Yeah.
Like this is assuming that they'll even allow for it.
Right, because she's that's
falsely accused someone of it.
A lot of doctors will refuse that if they're, say, too young or something.
Oh yeah, there's also things in the books, obviously, where you have to get parental consent.
I tried to get my tubes tied like 3 years ago, and it was very, very difficult to find a doctor who would not tell me, well, what if your future husband wants children?
What is the?
I actually had so Emmett, one of my two partners, when she tried to get her tubes tied, they told her that she could not get her tubes tied in case her partner wanted children. Her partner, Jeremy, who was the only partner she had at the time, was there at the doctor's office and looked the doctor in the eyes and says, "I never want kids.
Yep.
Please allow her to do so." And the doctor says, "Yes, but in sometime in the future you might," and then they dismissed it again.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like the sheer hurdles that a child-free woman has to jump over rather, in order to receive the medical care that she desires is fucking ridiculous. Like I shouldn't have to prove that I don't want children in order for a doctor to listen to me.
I think that they're concerned about lawsuits, of like
and
that might be
and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say this: if the woman that no fucking lawsuit should be able to come out of the woman saying that she does not want to have a child, because for there to be a potential lawsuit, you now have to have a world where the husband or the boyfriend has the ability to sue the girlfriend or the woman in charge for something they did with their own body.
No, I think what they're saying is that so
if the woman comes back later and says,
Right,
I
and
actually
says-
wanted kids.
Yeah, because that's one of the things in this bill. I was sitting there like, do they think that doctors are performing abortions without people's consent because it's the only way something made sense? Because they seem to think that women are going to turn around and sue the doctors for performing the abortions they asked for.
Well, apparently in the movie Gosnell, The Trial of America's Biggest Serial Killer, there's an actual scene where you see a woman trying to leave the abortion clinic, and she's being dragged back in, and it's that's not how this works.
That doesn't.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
They need to quit acting like women are not adult human beings.
Right. Don't treat me like I'm a fucking child. I'm fucking not a child. I know what I want and don't want out of life. And what I don't want includes that I don't fucking want children. Stop treating me like I'm somehow going to be, beholden to whatever some future partner may want. And that I'm actually going to be like, oh, you know what? All of these things that I didn't want out of life, now I actually want them. No, that's not going to fucking happen.
You done fucked up. I have not you, but whoever says that to you.
I know.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I have an answer.
Oh, I know you do. Hysterectomies. Are hysterectomies covered under?
If they're not medically necessary, then no.
Ah.
A good majority of the time, if it is considered to be an elective procedure, like tubal ligations, I have seen instances, I don't know overall, but I have seen instances where women have to pay for tubal ligations out of pocket, where they have to, if it's an elective hysterectomy. But also elective hysterectomies can really fuck with the entire system anyway, having to do with throw you into, menopause and shit like that. I don't know the ins and outs of it, so if you know the ins and outs, please let me know, but I do not know all of them, so I don't want to say, oh yes, this definitely happens, or no, this definitely doesn't happen. I can only speak from anecdotal evidence.
But I'm fairly certain, and I actually asked that because this is the same thing as to where I can get if I need to, I can get dick pills.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that I can get my vasectomy paid for with insurance.
Vasectomy is covered by insurance. Viagra is covered by insurance.
I do plan on it. By the way, I don't have to ask anybody's fucking permission for it either. I'm gonna go get my vasectomy, and it's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna ask for Susan to come in. I mean,
sign up.
That's something that's.
By the way, please don't.
And sign up.
Wait, I'm gonna watch them snip my dick.
Yeah.
I want to see. Can
dick
you guys run an
big.
experiment? Can you guys run an experiment where you
Yes.
go in and get a vasectomy, and she comes in and says that she objects to this,
They're not.
just to see what happens?
Can I do that whenever you get your vasectomy?
Can you it's not because we'd have to record it, obviously. It's not illegal to record in a hospital like that because there's
I don't know.
HIPAA shit.
Yeah, I don't know if it's recording, you recording rather than somebody else recording.
I just want to know what would happen.
Yeah, I think
but-
that is something that we could, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder.
If you're like, no,
Is
I
it-
want to have kids eventually, but he's getting this, and I don't approve of this decision, are they going to try and stop you from getting your vasectomy?
Is it like a speak now or forever hold your penis?
Like what
or
you should
speak
do.
now or forever hold your testicles?
Go
Well,
to,
yeah,
go to
it's-
two
it's a-
different, go to two different
like-
doctors.
That was fucking funny. I don't care what y'all said. That was fucking funny.
If you go to two different doctors,
I am laughing at it.
make sure that the two different doctors are in either within the same hospital, so you know that they're under at least some of the same standards.
Yeah.
And you go to one with the two of you, and you ask for the tubes tied and go through that whole ordeal with him present. And then you just repeat that experiment where he's asking for the vasectomy, and you record both, and then show the comparison, and then go, this is what happens in these two scenarios, and this is why this is fucked.
Right, yeah.
See, the thing is that I know for a fact that he could go alone to get a vasectomy.
Yes,
I know, but I want her present.
With her, but what I think would be interesting is if he goes and she disagrees, whether or not the doctors would be like, well, I think you should listen to your partner.
Yeah,
because you know that they would do that shit if you were talking about getting your tubes tied and he disagreed.
Yeah, that's actually, because that is something, by the way, that is going to happen. I am getting a vasectomy. It's not all about the women. For anybody listening,
taking the bullets out of the gun.
I have seen. Granted, I have seen instances, and I do. I am one of those awful Redditors. So I do subscribe to the child-free subreddit where they do have a list of child-free friendly doctors, like reproductive doctors. Mm-hmm. And I have seen instances where men have run into issues with getting a vasectomy if they don't have children, and especially if they're under a certain age. Like usually it's like 25, but granted, you're not.
I'm old enough to be president.
You're not under 25, so.
Nathaniel's an old fart.
Yeah, I'm one of the oldest of all of the YouTubers.
I'm
a
few years younger than you.
No, I don't know how old you are.
I'm old enough to be president.
He is.
There you go.
He's at least 45.
Okay.
That is not what the Constitution says.
57 then.
Every time that I say that, I'm like, and now you can go and read your constitutions and find out.
Isn't it 35?
It is 35 on Inauguration Day.
Yeah.
Which means that I could be, and we were actually doing this math with Susan, like, could Susan run for president? Because you're right on the cusp.
I am, because my birthday is January 11th.
Yeah.
So.
Except for she's not going to be 35, it'll be 34.
Yeah.
And if I am 34, like if it were November 4th of 2020, and I was elected president, and I was still 34, as long as I'm 35 prior to Inauguration Day, I'm good, which is actually pretty cool. So I could be president, just so you know. And yes, I could be the current president.
Regardless, your birthday is in June.
Damn it! I was so tempted to just say all you have to do is have 3 brain cells to do that.
Yeah,
because I think Trump has 2.
We'd have to do. I need some empirical evidence for that. But I
study
together.
I think. How often do you think that?
Not very often.
Like the Ben Shapiro troll. I really hope you're never president. Trust me, I hope I'm never president as well.
I hope he's just as reactionary as Ben, and just
I do too.
I really hope so.
But these are conversations.
My favorite Ben Shapiro meme is a picture of him walking in and saying, "Mom said you guys need to find a game that's 3 players." He looks like that kind of kid. It's just like he looks like a 12-year-old that would complain about that kind of thing. Anyway, we have these that out there for the benefit of the Ben Shapiro troll. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have these conversations, right? And they're not regular conversations that people have. Which, by the way,
that you and I have.
Well, like.
No, we do not have regular conversations.
No, we have the opposite.
A regular conversation, because I haven't had one of those in years.
Yeah, I know. It seems as we get older and become more activisty. But these, like the
I want to be a fly on the wall in y'all's house right now. Just
it's our conversations.
Weird.
We had a thought experiment last night in bed. I think
it depends on what the thought experiment.
No, it was 2 nights ago in bed where we had and we ended up almost saying at the same time and everything. So it's just like the conversations we have. Yes, they're.
Wait, what was the thought experiment?
I don't remember.
I've slept since then. Yeah. I don't remember.
We're both going to sleep, but and we definitely send stuff back and forth. Like we found out that my idea of putting historical Funko Pops is apparently an idea that somebody else.
It's
had.
a thing.
And no Alexander Hamilton yet, but we'll get to that.
No, but there's like a Rosie the Riveter and a George Washington
Yeah,
and
Gina.
a Ben Franklin. That one's gonna be my favorite.
As far as I can tell, he's not syphilitic.
Yeah, I was gonna say. We'd have to.
Where are we?
But no, but those are the conversations we have. The kind of conversation like this that's necessary, doesn't happen very often at all. The conversation that we just had about because Susan already knew. As soon as I get insurance again, I'm going to get a vasectomy, right? I have no want to have children, right? How many people actually have that type of a conversation? But not only that, how many people actually have a conversation where there is an understanding about how something affects me and affects everybody on a macro level? Yeah. And that's why, and those are the reasons for the choices that we make when it comes to legislation. And it's not about me. And the conversation about abortion and about reproductive justice, that's not just about you're killing a baby.
Right.
Because that's really all that it ever comes down to.
Yeah.
From the conversations that I hear.
It's emotional appeals a good majority of the time.
It's feels over reals until you need feels for your argument.
Yeah.
So, and I think that this is, these things are really important. And serious, I'm all the times that you and I have ever spoken, it's never been like this. That you and I have never had this type of conversation. It's always been something a little more
atheism related.
Yeah, let's call it that. We actually on Susan and I on our show last night.
I think I sat next to you at Faithless Forum, and we didn't talk too much. this is the first real conversation that we're having too.
Did we sit next to each other?
I think we did for briefly. You were posted on the Twitters in the back of the room for a little bit there.
Yep.
Because you were taking little quotes. You were being a little creationist in the back.
Then I was sitting next to you for a little bit.
I was doing that some too.
I was being what, sirs?
I was saying you were being a little creationist in the bag, just doing quote mining.
I was doing what I could, and I went around and spoke. I went to Dan, and I went to Paul, and I went to.
You were like a man on a mission the whole fucking time. Like that was.
I went there, and I said, even during dinner, and I said, hey, because they all thanked me for doing that, which is really nice. And I said, hey, I only have so many characters, and so I want you to know that I'm never going to. I'm always going to write these, and I might have like little ellipses in there.
It's going to be a little out of context, but it's not going to be.
But I'm never going to misrepresent you, and that was like really, really nice. Or I said I'm going to do what I can, so please let me know. And it was really nice. They were like, no, the fact that I read these and I can see this, and like there's like journalistic integrity. Yeah. And I'm like, so you can tell I'm not a young Earth creationist then.
I'm still getting shit because since I had been at Faithless Forum as an official representative of American Atheists, so Tommy had said, a couple days before, he's like, yeah, if you do the hashtag and tag American Atheists, then I will retweet it for you. And I'm still getting shit, a few weeks later for a tweet that I had sent out during the Dealing with Personal Attacks panel about how being a woman in the atheist movement is sometimes very, very, very difficult because there's a lot of people undermining you, and there's a lot of people questioning if you belong where you are. And I'm still getting shit over that. So when you guys were discussing discussing Faithless Forum earlier, I was just all like, oh yeah, that's that discuss dealing with personal attacks panel is something that has indirectly caused me to receive personal attacks on the internet. So, fuck me, right?
I mean, yes. Not you. Not.
I see what you did there.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
But no, I was talking to Cyrus earlier, and I told him that I've finally be able to, because I've started to feel a little better about things, been able to this past week kind of like come more into like out of my shell a little bit and more in my element on social media and on live streaming and stuff. And this was another opportunity to do that. We did it obviously last night, where we try and keep our show like more upbeat, and part of that last night had to do with this. that had to do with abortion, and it's like,
it's difficult to keep such a very, very serious topic relatively lighthearted.
Which is
sometimes you have to make the dark jokes, and sometimes you have to realize when to not make the dark jokes.
Every once in a while there's, you got to make I made like a Monica Lewinsky 9/11 joke last night.
You did?
Oh yeah, it went over well too. I blamed her for everything, including Donald Trump. It's her fault.
Did it?
It went over really well.
Did it go over like an airplane flying?
Nope. Because they didn't go over. But this is such an important conversation, as I said again. So thank you for, and I don't know if she, Lady Unicorn is still here. I know she said she had to leave. I'm glad.
I didn't completely leave. We just had a lot of rain and trailer roof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but thank you for putting together what you did,
you're welcome.
And Ocean for really kind of bearing the soul there.
Yeah.
Because I for all the shit that I go through in DFW, so far we haven't had to, consider being like, you know what? when Arkansas is like the like the upward movement from Texas, we're considering. We haven't had to consider that yet.
I before the stream I said, maybe I'll move to a more liberal state like Texas.
Yeah. But
there you go.
Yeah. That is a weird cat. But no, I have hope, because I've seen what we can do. Not just secular folks, but I've seen what we as a progressive society can do, and I have hope that we're gonna move that way again.
One of those, and you might agree with me on this. I think one of the things that a lot of people can do is grab a membership at ACLU, because they're going to be fighting this one, and that is one cheap and easy way to put your money in the right place regarding this issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if I get any opportunities in the future to speak in a manner that can affect these things, I'm going to take it.
Right.
Same.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take it. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to use that public speaking thing that I've been refining for the past year and a half of my channel and put it to fucking good use.
Right.
Absolutely. I know that, we do that here, and it has varying results, but we do, and we kind of made it a point to never sit on the sideline when it comes to things, whether it's like this or any type of, not just, separation of church state, but also anything that has to do with equality and equity. It's the reason that we march in the Pride Parade, and it's the reasons that we're there for. People call us SJWs all the time. It's not an insult. We like equality for folks. That. So,
I'm the type of person that, when somebody says SJW, I know what they mean depending on who's speaking it. So it's an insult when certain people say it, and it's something to strive for when other people say it. Right. I personally don't have any issue with the term, because I know that depending on who's saying it, it's going to mean one thing or another. I recognize it. So I've been called it multiple times, and I literally am just like, if that's what you think, fine, that's fine. You can.
I have a problem with it. The fact that it changes meaning depending on who's saying it.
Yeah, but that's literally every word in the English language. So if you have a problem with language,
not quite to the same level.
Not quite at the same level, but the thing is that I have a problem with the term Christian, because it changes meaning depending on who's saying it. That changes more often than the term SJW does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know that Susan and I, we're not going to stop, and whatever it takes to, if we have to, if I have to come over there and, do whatever, I will. If Susan,
But not right now because I'm hungry.
Yeah, Susan's hungry right now, so I
You're
think that we have to
hungry.
go eat.
Fair
Yeah, yeah. Not everybody gets to eat on camera.
Hey, it's only because during the break I literally ran and grabbed Chinese. I was.
He was talking about Chinese earlier.
Literally
Yes.
ran there. Okay.
I figuratively ran. I ran on wheels.
Oh,
I ran on wheels.
Was that when she was?
Oh no
telling her-
This was the hour and a half. So
No, that between
originally there was going to be an hour break between the Hammered Out episode and this episode. It turned into an hour and a half break because I wanted to grab food.
Oh, that's
Smart.
why it was.
That was the scheduling
Got
reason.
it.
We extended it a little bit so that Cyrus could stuff his face.
Yes,
Fair enough.
Smart.
That's
That's
literally
fair.
what
Honestly,
happened.
I took the opportunity to stuff my face as well.
Yes.
I did not. And
I
so
got
never
a
did.
Philly cheesesteak
That
sandwich.
sounds as if that was a mistake, Nathaniel, and I
It
think
was a
I
mistake.
think it is a mistake that you will be rectifying here in a few minutes.
Well,
I guess
I
it's about time to wind this guy down. I guess. Right?
It is.
yeah. Well, I don't consider it a mistake as much as I was waiting for her.
Aww.
There you
Aw.
go.
That's
You
Make the
just made it
sacrifices.
adorable.
it's
Isn't he precious?
now it's now it's a flirt, everybody.
Oh, it always is. No
you
matter
two,
what
you
it is.
two, you two flirt in the chat literally all the fucking time.
Did you find anybody better to flirt with?
I mean, Raz is right over there.
That's subjective.
You're subjective.
Yeah, that's true too. I'm certain Raz, by the way.
Existence is subjective.
Oh,
Where's the forever alone image? I need to post that for myself.
oh,
There's-
you're not, dude, you're not alone, man. You're on camera. Right
there you go.
now.
You're here with us.
Yeah. But yeah, we are gonna go eat though. So I
Fair
don't know
enough.
where the.
I don't think
She
there's
said
really
that-
much more we can cover on this right now. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I was looking through the rest of the bill as well. It's a lot of stuff that we definitely covered. None of it. It's like, there's some interesting things in there, like alimony for embryos.
yeah,
It
that's-
is.
That's a thing that's in this bill.
Yeah.
You know, requiring person seeking abortion to be provided information.
That already that
There's-
happened. By the way, the shit that is information. Yeah, that's some religious nonsense.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of don't have an abortion, we'll adopt your baby, but actually no, we won't because we're going to be complete and total assholes.
Yeah, it's
And
we're gonna throw your baby in a cage as soon as we find out that it's brown.
I mean, basically.
Well, where they
The-
threw in the having to be told about its gestational age and being shown its heartbeat.
Yeah, that's what that we're doing that shit in Texas since.
The other things that were put in were, let's see, reporting by physicians if they perform or attempt to perform with a heartbeat present. And the last one that I saw was, and this is down here at the very end, adds unborn citizen with detectable heartbeat as dependents for state tax purposes.
Jesus Christ! If there's one thing that Texas got right, there's no state tax here.
Yep.
That's
So-
that's
Yeah.
again. It's
How many dependents do you have? Well,
I mean, currently, or like again, this is like collecting tax for somebody that's not born yet.
right.
That and again, say that we're in 20, say that this went into effect today. Okay, I'm running this through as if it's today. I know it's not.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat's gonna
It'll
say
be taxable year in 2021, but
Yeah. But let's do it like that. It's right now that it's in effect, and like hypothetical person finds out that hypothetical partner is pregnant. Right then, you put that on taxation, and it goes and that for the
and then there's
whenever-
miscarriage.
yeah. What happens? I now have filed something.
May 1st.
Tax
Yep.
fraud.
I have now filed something that's it's fraudulent.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Or if I'm
Tax fraud.
or if I'm collecting, and I already went there was earlier, I guess, what's rehashing because I know we're getting off of here. But when I'm collecting benefits, which I can do because it is a person on the fucking census, when I'm collecting benefits, SNAP, TANF, can't get WIC, I don't think. I don't know. As far as I know.
Can't
The
get
funny
WIC.
thing is, WIC is actually what the thing that you can get while pregnant.
What?
What?
No matter what
You could-
definition I use, an infant is not a fucking fetus.
Women, infants, and children is what
Yeah.
it is. It's for the pregnant women as well.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is.
As a fetus, I resent that, sir.
Sorry, my outrage was misplaced.
I would like to
You
say
have been defeatist.
Yep, that's. My outrage was misplaced on that
Defeatist?
one,
you
man.
have been defeatist.
That was
This is a
airball.
bill that prevents the deletist the
This
fetus.
is a defeatist mentality.
This bill prevents deletus the fetus. It prevents yeetus the fetus.
Aren't the fetuses you're looking for?
Into infants.
What was that?
This is not defeatist.
About infants.
Oh my
I'm
god.
gonna let you, however long it takes. All right. But yeah, it's
Obi-Wan fetus.
Jesus
Can we now
Christ.
call food stamps fetus stamps?
Yes. At this, if it's because it's
I
supplemental.
gotta put shoes on my fetus.
Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is what it stands for. Wow, I know those acronyms. Thanks, babe.
Sorry, I'm just still very, very pleased with myself.
She is. You guys. I don't know if you folks heard what she said.
Obi-Wan fetus, and these
Yeah.
aren't the fetuses you're looking for.
Jeez. But yeah,
R2 fetus,
that's
where
not a-
are you?
That's not a name I've heard in a long time.
Fetus Baka.
does that also wait? Does that also mean because we have the
Luke Sky fetus.
we have the gender reveal parties, right, or whatever they are.
Yes.
So what? Before you can find out, they have to have a third gender because there's not known.
Well, no, it's because if it's part of the census, it has to have a name. In order
Yeah,
to
so
be,
if you don't know yet, is everybody going
Oh.
to neutral names?
yeah, you're gonna
Shit.
That's
every
a lot of
name is gonna be
Sams.
non-binary.
There's going to be
There's
a lot
not-
of Sams. There's going to be a lot of Chris's.
A lot of
Yeah.
Camerons.
Or just
Yeah,
do
but-
like litters of kittens and puppies and be like, baby.
The brown one. They call it it's gonna be socks.
We'll rename it later.
Either that, or I'm just gonna know a lot of guys named Cindy. Like,
Oh.
Or can everybody just name
Like, you
their
know what?
children Lobaka? What? No Star Wars Holiday Special purists? Come on, guys.
I miss you, Peter.
I'm gonna put the lens cap on. Goodbye.
But I feel like that was one we didn't touch on earlier. So yes, you have to name your fetus at 6 weeks because it's part of the census.
It's okay. Everybody these days is naming their children Braden, Caden, Aiden, Hayden, Jaden, Layden.
We're gonna go eat.
I'm very hungry.
I'm very hungry.
That was really good rhyming for the fact that I don't know that you've eaten in hours. So good job with
Not
that.
since like noon.
I haven't either. So I had some coffee,
Eh,
which counts as food.
it raises my blood sugar.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Sirs, thank you again. Ocean, as it again, I know
Absolutely.
we finally
finally had a conversation.
yeah, which is
Yeah,
great.
sure.
I look forward to more of them. I'm gonna be on Siris's channel tomorrow.
Yes, you
And
are.
I'm so
oh my god,
sorry.
you are doing that.
I'm so sorry to everybody that has to tune into that. It's
Is
not
it at 6?
6 o'clock Central, even
6
though
Central.
you can ask Siris. I was trying to push it later. Whatever. I'm gonna be debating
For a
the-
live stream.
Yeah.
I won't be home yet, so I don't want to interrupt, so I'll stay out there.
Well, it's going to be
Okay.
it's going to be at 7 Eastern, correct? I think
Yeah.
that's the time that we agreed on.
Yes, 6 Central.
This is assuming 7 Eastern. You are correct. This is assuming
He can time zone.
this.
Yeah, you think he's gonna run?
I think he is.
Okay.
I'm 90% certain he is. If he is, then instead we're just gonna have a conversation about I don't know. We'll have that time travel conversation.
Oh gosh, I'm not yet prepared for that. But
And
yes,
I'll
that's
come in and I'll come in and debate you on something. I don't know.
we can debate that next.
Debate me, bro. Debate me. Bro.
That is
Throw down the gauntlet.
but that is tomorrow, and then
And
we
our
also-
stream is Sunday at 7:30 Central. You can
Plug
find
your
us
channel. Plug the channel.
Find Disbelief.
Cool.
yeah, divine disbelief. If I didn't see the little marker move over top of our
So
Our
are you
boss.
guys like strong atheists, or do you like not even lift?
Normally, I can leg
Look here,
press
Steve.
quite a bit. I've maxed out leg presses before, but due to the ankle fracture, I have not maxed out a leg press in a while. So
she walks around as an atheist, as far as I know.
yeah, I hobble
But
around.
she's not an atheist when she's sitting down.
No, she sits down and she's a good Christian girl. She stands up and she's a strong atheist.
strong.
That's how you can tell.
Strong.
Strong.
But we, I think, Cirrus, I believe that I did receive a DM from the Unlikely Atheist.
Yes, he's following me on Twitter now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, you should go follow him. He is.
I've already subscribed to his channel.
He's deconverted last week.
Yeah.
So
he's got quite the beard.
Yeah, he does.
Puts you guys to shame. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, his beard is
I'm a fan of beards.
I am too. Good beards. But I think
New beards are always good, people.
Yes, I believe he's going to be on with us on Sunday. So
yeah,
you and I, Cirrus, will have to, we will have to have different time. Ocean, we'll speak with you about that if you ever want to come on as well.
Yeah.
No, I'd happily come on.
And that is every
do things and stuff.
Do things and stuff and such and things.
Sundays are our interview days, and Wednesdays are our news days.
Yep, Wednesdays and Sundays. So we're gonna be on our Sunday at 7:30 Central, whatever time that is in your time zone is unimportant. You figure it out.
7:30 Texas time. That's what matters to me.
Oh yeah, and if you get to come on Sundays, you get the last line is your show's tagline.
Yeah.
So
that was my idea.
It's a lot of fun. We're gonna.
Also, I named the show, by the way.
She did name the show, and KC, Mrs. Godless Engineer, made the logo.
She did.
So
awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for coming out. I recognize that this has been a
very long stream.
It's been long.
Yeah.
It's not just been long, it's also been loud.
You guys are the real MVPs, by the way, for like streaming all fucking day.
We just did, we did it. We did hammer it out. And then we followed it up with this, which, yeah, let's do like a light topic. We'll just do 3 hours on abortion.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Next, we're going to talk about firearm reform.
I have had a few people on my channel.
We touched on gun control briefly in the
yes,
previous...
in that if a fetus is a person, then in Texas at least we have to hand it a firearm.
It is the law.
It would be part of the militia, wouldn't it?
Yes. That said, we do thank you all for coming out, and I do want to thank all of my guests. I know that Lady Unicorn didn't pipe up a whole lot, but they did provide the research, and I do thank them for coming on.
There was a lot of back and forth with her early on in the stream. If you guys want to get into the content of if you guys are watching now but you didn't catch what happened earlier in the stream, go back to the early part, and we actually Lady Unicorn helps us out with like actually defining a lot of what we're discussing in this bill. She did a fantastic job, and definitely check that out.
Thank you.
Back to you, Cirrus. Words.
That all said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I swear we will come up with a lighter topic tomorrow.